Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of the NXTGEN Racing front-wheel drive Friday series, particularly the Clio known as iRacing. And today marks round 4 of 8, which has seen our drivers return to the United States of America from their jaunt to the United Kingdom last time out to none other than the Eastern Coast Circuit in the state of Connecticut, known as Oulton Park. One of the 3 oldest road racing circuits in the United States, of course the other 2 being Road America and Willow Springs Raceway. This one coming in third, having been opened in 1957 and broken ground the year before. It is a circuit like no other when it comes to a short lap, but one that is highly challenging throughout. With the fact this road racing circuit runs over a multitude of hilly terrain and also some very fast corners to boot, it means that it is a circuit all about concentration and focus from corner to corner and lap to lap. With a lap time that is typically below a minute for most road racing cars, including our Clio Cup car machines today, it is going to be one we're going to see plenty of laps being scored in each and every race, indeed in qualifying. But the key figment of the imagination comes in with regards to our drivers in the fact they'll want to try and take victory through making sure they're able to string together the ultimate set of laps and not put a single foot wrong over the entirety of the racing periods. But as we get ready to go racing today, welcome to all of you tuning in, no matter what your media platform. And of course there are 3 media platforms available to you to tune in. Firstly, we do have the official NXTGEN Racing platforms of both YouTube. That's youtube.com, look for NXTGEN Racing. Alternatively on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/groups/NXTGEN Racing. Or lastly, if you're a Twitch user, you may be tuning in right now via twitch.tv/TX141. Who is TX141? Well, allow me to introduce myself. I'm your host and commentator. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Brit of the Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I will bring you all your racing action today. Now, we should point out that this broadcast is a post-round broadcast. So what does that mean? Well, the broadcast itself is live. Currently, what you're watching is a live show. However, the racing you're seeing in the background, indeed, as the focus of your screen a little bit later on, that racing actually occurred as of Friday last week. So that would have been back on what was Friday, I do believe, Friday the 28th of April, but we're bringing it to you as if it were live this Wednesday, the 3rd of May. So the difference being, whilst the racing itself is not 100% live, the raw experience that you're going to be having here is as close as possible to that live experience, while as your host and commentator do not know what happens in the final practice session, which is currently ongoing, nor in the qualifying or the race sessions. And we do of course ask if you're any of the drivers who participate in these races, or you're a spectator who happens to know what happened in each race, that you avoid any potential spoilers in any of our free chats, because of course we can see all of those, and it's not just for my benefit, it's also for the benefit of the guys and girls at home tuning in and ready to watch some absolutely fantastic Clio Cup racing. And in terms of our schedule for today, times in British summertime, that's BST or Universal Coordinator Time +1. We'll be getting underway with our qualifying session in 12 minutes time, 15 minutes of qualifying, all of our drivers out of the circuit. And whilst we only have 14 drivers in attendance today, it's not going to be as though the circuit's not crowded, it's short length, and therefore it is going to be a rapid fire qualifying session where slipstream and lap pace will go hand in hand. After that, we'll make our immediate transition into the first of our 3 races for today, and that'll be of course all 3 of them at 21 laps. They're all sprint races, and the first one at 8:30. After that, we'll take a brief breather before returning at approximately 9 o'clock for the build up to race number 2, and then we'll have another break before returning at approximately 9:30 for the build up to the final race of the day, and that is race number 3. But as we get ready to go racing, of course, let's give you a quick recap of the calendar thus far and what still lies in wait. As we can see here, after last week's round at Oulton Park in the United Kingdom, back on the 21st of April, we've had a little bit of an oscillation between the UK and the USA. In the fact, we started off on the 7th of April in round number 1 at the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit, and of course that being in the county of Kent in the UK, before making our way over to Monterey County in the state of California in the US of A, along at the west coast for Laguna Seca on the 14th of April, and we saw the American equivalent of Brands Hatch play out in the same effect as Brands Hatch itself in round number 1. Brilliant racing at both circuits, and a different tone of racing in both of them, in the fact that Brands Hatch Indy really perhaps devoid of overtaking opportunities, and drivers having to be quite forceful. Meanwhile, Laguna Seca is all about avoiding mistakes, and overtaking opportunities really arose when mistakes kicked in. And then last time out at Oulton Park, we got to see there in the county of Cheshire in the United Kingdom, the battling continued. Whilst it was a narrow road surface, our drivers made sure to really make it feel as though the surface was a lot wider than it actually was. But then going in today at Oulton Park, we have a circuit which takes away from the last 3 rounds and focuses more on that flying pace, a wide open road surface, and plenty of overtaking opportunities if you can stay close to your opponent and make sure to try to outbrake them into the heavy braking zones. And after this round, we'll be having our break week, of course, before returning on what will be the 12th of May for round number 5 to kick off the second half of the championship campaign with a visit to Germany and in particular the motorsport arena Oschersleben. Now after that, in round number 6, we're making our way down under to Australia for Oulton Park, and it'll be the only time that we do visit the Pacific region, and that'll be on the 19th of May. We'll then make it away into round number 7 on the 26th of May at Silverstone, and now our drivers will be taking on the international circuit where it's fast flying corners. Indeed, it may be a short lap, but our drivers are going to make sure there's plenty of action there. You can count on that in the penultimate round of the season, and then we make our way from the UK back to the US of A to wrap it all up in the state of New York at Watkins Glen International, and it really will feel as though it's NXTGEN Racing meets Clio Cup meets NASCAR on the 2nd of June there with a higher average lap speed and the lack of major braking zones. But still plenty of racing to come, and indeed we've got quite the spectacle today. And going into this round, of course, let's give you a quick recap of how the standings stand after 3 of 8 rounds. And we can see, starting with the overall Drivers' Championship, remind you, of course, that this is a Drivers' Championship only, albeit there's an overall championship, and then there's the individual Pro and Prime Class Championships, where the points are adjusted based on class finishing positions over each of the races in the rounds. But overall, it is Chris Daines who leads going into tonight on 209 points. The Pro Class driver really has been the man to beat since the outset of the season, albeit now we are starting to see the rise of 2 key figures, and it's the 2 pros of Adam Delmont and Lee Holmes. Both drivers there now on 172 points and 167 points respectively, with a 5-point delta between them, and both starting to close onto Chris Daines' pace. Now, it wasn't to say that Daines was not there last time out at Oulton Park, indeed putting his foot down as best as possible, but Delmont and Holmes both started now finding the way in, and indeed it's a three-way battle for the title. And then in P4, meanwhile, the prime driver of Ian Manners moving up to P4 after his brilliant performances last time out, and on 94 points he is 6 points clear of Shane Piggott. In return, Piggott having middling performances and looking to try and find a bit more stability in his performance with an advantage of 10 points over Mikey Pollard, and Mikey Pollard really one of the big names that stood out, of course, for DCW Racing at Oulton Park, putting together an absolutely brilliant string of results, and he's leapfrogged his way into P6, 5 points clear of Reece Saunders, with Jamie Dory there a further 5 off in P8, and then Gavin Gardner and Adam McNally completing your top 10. Best of the rest in P11, it's the prime of Lee Horner, 57 points, 3 outside of the top 10, but looking to get back in today. Meanwhile, Phil McDougall there in P12, the prime driver really showing his fangs at Oulton Park, and we hope to see plenty more of that from here today, because the CXR Project Black driver definitely now starting to find his feet and championship momentum, and he's 10 points clear of Mark Sykes. Craig Jones and Matthew Addy complete the run to P15, with Tim Ritton, Michael Lees, Glenn Humberstone, Dan Skinner and Roger Morton running all the way to P20, and as we look outside of the top 20, from 9 points in the hands of Roger Morton, we then go to 6 in the hands of Daniel Fritz, and Daniel Fritz having a difficult last round, but looking to try and build up a bit more momentum. He's not in attendance today, unfortunately. In fact, he is in attendance. I should correct myself there, as my eyesight does deceive me, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on. Darren Hillsby, P22, the prime driver there, a point off of the 21st place driver. That's Mark Cadmore on a single point in P23, with John Higgins Jr., Thomas Delaney, Josh Brown, Simon Robson, Mark Harris-Smith, Steve Howe, and Cole Jacqueline yet to score points in the overall standings. And then come on to the Pro Drivers' Championship, and here we can see our 10 Pro Drivers with the points adjusted, and it's Chris Daines who leads as well here, with the advantage being 36 points over Adam Delmont. And again, the theme remains the same. Delmont is starting to close on Chris Daines very gradually, with the gap being maintained around the 35 to 36 point mark. Indeed, Daines able to add 1 more point to his tally compared to when they went to Oulton Park, but Delmont now starting to find that rigour and form, and the same for Lee Holmes, who's moved back into a region of 6 points off of Delmont, and it's so close between the two of them. Of course, the question will be, will Delmont or Holmes be able to take 1 step ahead and close down Chris Daines? Well, one thing I can tell you is that Chris Daines is not in attendance today, and well, that has been confirmed, so therefore Delmont and Holmes will both have an open goal opportunity to really close that gap and try to get 1 step ahead of the other, or will they be battling one another too hard and they may take points off of each other and prevent themselves from making major progress? Shane Piggott, meanwhile, in P4, 125 points. He's leading the rest of the field in the charge for the top 3, with 6-point advantage over Reece Saunders, with Gavin Garner in P6, 3 points clear of Adam McNally, then Jamie Dory in P8, a point off. We're getting Humberstone and John Higgins Jr. completed the standings. Higgins Jr. yet to score any points. And as we come onto the prime class, meanwhile, it is Ian Manners on 184 points, with a grind advantage now of 49 points over Lee Horn, and then Phil McDougall in P3 on 128. It does seem as though now the attention is starting to move towards the battle for P2 at this time, and Ian Manners will be looking to try to extend his advantage going into the mid-season break, with Phil McDougall there now really starting to build that flow. But keep your eyes on fourth place man Mikey Pollard. After his brilliant performances at Oulton Park, the DCW racing driver really could try to put an advantage over the Next Gen Racing and CXR Project Black drivers of Horner McDougall tonight, and could he find himself in at P2 come the end of it. Mark Sykes falls to the bottom end of the top 5 at 115 points, but still in it to win it, there's no question about that. And the same for Craig Jones, just outside the top 5 by 9 points, with an advantage of 7 points over Matthew Addy. Tim Ritton, Michael Lees and Darren Ills complete your top 10, with Roger Morton best the rest there, 4 points outside the top 10, but he does have quite the advantage of 15 points to Dan Skinner, who's in P12, with Mark Cadmore, Daniel Fritz and Lewis Benny completing your top 15. Mark Harris-Smith in P16, still trying to make his way into the top 15, with a 2-point advantage over Simon Robson, and then Thomas Delaney, Josh Brown and Steve Howe yet to score any points. But as we come from our Drivers' Championship standings, head to our circuit for today. Of course, it's none other than the classic layout of Lime Rock Park, and this is the original layout. 7 corners, and with it, there's no major technical corners in terms of chicanes, which have been added in more recent years. But the key theme here, as you can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com, thank you to their simulator and also for their wonderful circuit maps, is that this Lakeville region circuit, located in Litchfield County of the state of Connecticut in the US of A, is one that is all about momentum. Whereas our drivers make their way down the start-finish straight, known as the Sam Posey Straight, they'll break their way into Big Bend at turns 1 and 2, the double apex corner, looking to try and hold a nice tight line to the apex before flying out into the left-hander, appropriately named at turn number 3, then coming into right-hander at turn number 4. Now it's all about trying to be as close as possible to full throttle through turn number 4, and if they get it right, they'll charge their way up the no-name straight into the uphill right-hander at turn number 5, where the circuit sweeps upwards with a camber road surface change, and as they head uphill through 5 and in towards West Bend at 6, it's then the drop over the rise into downhill at turn number 7 to complete the lap and do it all over again. And the key thing will be that in turns 5, 6 and 7, it's about managing the throttle and making sure not to invoke excessive understeer, but carry as much speed from corner to corner, because that momentum you can bring back onto the Sam Posey Straight to complete the lap could be critical to making an overtake into Big Bend on the next one. But just to give you a quick reminder of our rules before we turn to our racing pictures, in terms of setup, this is a fixed setup series where our drivers are required to bring a regulated setup to each and every round as regulated by Next Gen Racing. Driver class wise, the driver classes have been finalised as of last week's round number 3, which does mean that we're not expecting any driver class changes unless there is by emergency a need to change a driving class, but that only be by exception by the administration. And sprint race wise, the race 1 grid shall be set based on results of qualifying, which is a given. The race 2 grid shall be set up based on results of race number 1. So what that means in practice is the winner of race 1 starts on pole for race 2, and we work our way down the finishing order of race 1 to set the grid for race 2. And then the race 3 grid shall be a partial reverse grid based on results of race 2, and in terms of the finishing positions of the top half of the grid being reversed. So with the fact we have 14 drivers in attendance today, that means the top 7 places will be inverted. So the 7th place finisher in race number 2 starts on pole for race number 3, and meanwhile the winner of race number 2 starts P7, and then the 8th place finishers and downwards in race 2, that's exactly where they'll start on the grid for race number 3. Now each driver shall have 2 fast repairs available in each race, and each race shall conclude either after the allotted lap amount, which should happen first, 21 laps in each race, or if we do see multiple safety cars or an extended safety car, the race will run up to 30 minutes in duration. That's enough rules and regulation and everything in between. I know what you're all here for. You're here for the racing as we look to our pictures as our drivers make their way on around currently. We do look to one Adam Delmont, the fastest man on circuit currently in this final practice warm-up session, as the number 37 driver for Next Gen Racing makes his way out to turn number 7 at downhill corner and onto the Sam Posey Straight, and we'll tucked in behind him that I do believe that is Jamie Dory, and we'll both drivers right now just trying to get themselves set and into a bit of flow, and we see those practice times showing that Adam Delmont a 10th faster than Mikey Pollard, but with a limited number of pros here, this is a huge opportunity for our Pro-Am drivers to be able to make a lot of ground in that overall championship and really put one over the pros. Now, how can you tell who's a pro versus a Pro-Am? We can tell on the timing towel there with regards to the coloured sash between their position number and the driver name. In the fact they have a green sash like Adam Delmont does, alternatively Jamie Dory, that means they are a pro. Meanwhile, if you're looking for a Pro-Am, we need to look for the pink-purple sash, such as that which Matthew Addy has against his name as he parks up there coming on through turn at number 4 and decides to head back to the pits. But meanwhile, Daniel Fritz, the Whiskey Runners racing driver, heading in towards turn at number 1 and 2, heading through Big Bend here, and we look forward to seeing how he gets on, given the fact the Australian right now, as he comes on around, we decides there to have a little bit of wobble on turn number 2, I think stopping the car, knowing that we are going into qualifying very shortly, as we also look to Michael Leeson in the Next Gen Racing 55 car, heading up towards turn at number 5 and through uphill bend he goes, and you can see that rise there, absolutely phenomenal, the jump up, and we'll get some onboards and qualifying qualifying. It'll give you a perspective of just how much of an elevation change it is on the apex. But as he comes towards the end of another lap, we'll very shortly be heading into that qualifying session, and we will just take a brief moment away, ladies and gentlemen, because of course we do have a slight technical risk that we go into the qualifying session and the qualifying times are prematurely revealed, and we don't want that. So we'll be right back for qualifying. It's coming up in less than 1 minute. As we return, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for qualifying. Apologies that we do have to step away, but there is a risk when we transition on these iRacing replay files from the practice session to the qualifying session that every so often the replay file will essentially show us all the qualifying times before the qualifying session has even got underway. And well, of course, we don't want to see how the qualifying times come on until the very end, because that would spoil the surprise. And well, as we do see our drivers making the way out the pit lane, it's 15 minutes and it's go, go, go. And well, what can we expect here in terms of the delivery of an ultimate qualifying lap? Well, the key trick around here at Oulton Park is just to be able to find your flow. You want to get into the rhythm. You want to be able to nail every apex as best as you can, know your line, know which gear you need to be in, and know when you need to return to the throttle, when you go to partial throttle versus full throttle, and just maintain that rhythm. And then you add a flavour over the top of it, which is you need to find the slipstream of another car, particularly in the second half of the lap. We see the racing surface start to open up in terms of the length of the straight, connecting the corners, so particularly coming out of turn number 4, that's when you want to find a toe down the no-name straight into uphill bend, and then coming on through turn number 6 and downhill through 7, and that's what will complete the lap there, because you pick up that toe, it could be worth up to what is 3 to 4 attempts a lap, and that will be the differentiator between you being perhaps on pole versus being down in P10 if you get your cards right. But as we see all the drivers making the way onto their first flying laps here, a lap time of just under a minute. We are expecting approximately in the region of 10 to 12 qualifying laps here from our drivers, depending on how much fuel they've taken from the outset. But as we do say hello to a good number of you there in the respective chats, including the Facebook chat. Katie Eames, who says, good evening, Paul, and good evening to you, Katie. I hope you're doing well this fine Wednesday evening. And well, after the excitement of the NXTGEN Season 3 last night, I can tell you one thing, just excited for the racing now. Albeit I'm not sure how my voice is going to hold up, given the fact Oulton Park last time out, we saw some absolutely monstrous battling between our drivers, and we'll hope to see plenty more today. But do let us know, Katie, indeed, everyone tuning in, what you're looking forward to most here at Oulton Park, as we do see Mikey Pollard heading on to the start-finish straight and heading on down. And all good here. Thank you, Katie. I'm glad to hear you're doing it very well. And as we see Pollard heading across the timeline, well, Lease will set the initial bar at 57.675, but we are expecting that lap time to come down as this qualifying session starts to mature. Already Piggott, they're going fast. The same for McNally, as we see Pollard heading through turns 1 and 2. And meanwhile, we look to Darren Hills. He's had a bit of an off there, and I believe, unless I'm very much mistaken, that's on the exit of 4, albeit on the inside. So I think he may have just come a cropper going into the corner there, perhaps connected to the apex a bit too aggressively. And the car has been ejected into the infield, albeit not normally where we'd see a car, and well, as he brings himself back together on an outlap as well. So definitely a difficult start to his day, but he's still got plenty more time. As meanwhile, Mark Cadwell in the smiley machine, and as he makes his way through turn at number 4, I can't help it. Every time I see the number 40 car, I was about to say it makes me smile, but it doesn't make me smile to see it in the barrier there and just going a bit wide on the exit of 4, and the car taking to the grass. As meanwhile, Lewis Benny making it safely through turn 4 by comparison, and now heading up towards turn at number 5 in towards uphill corner, and we'll yet to get a time on the board. You see a lot of drivers already, the majority of the field, getting the time in, and as he makes his way on through, runs a bit wide. They're coming out of turn number 5. Got to be careful, and that's the thing around here with the fact there's no runoff area apart from where we do have the adjoins to other layouts of the circuit. If you get it wrong, you are onto the grass and very quickly finding yourself going towards those barriers. And whilst the grass is quite deep at some corners, such as the run through turn number 7, in other places it is very shallow, and indeed the wall is not too far away, and that's the last thing you want to hit as Benny crosses the line and goes P11. But as our drivers start to make their way onto what is now their 4th flying laps, including Adam Delmont here heading across the timeline at 57.250, now being the margin. He raises the pole time too. That's by 2.5 tenths versus Jamie Dorey. And as he comes on through the right hand there at turn at number 2, still plenty for him to achieve as he comes on through the left hander at turn 3, up towards 4 he goes. And well, meanwhile we look from him to Shane Piggott, who goes around through the final corner, and we jump on board with Piggott for a flying lap. Fritz making his way down towards turn number 1 as he gets ready across the timeline, and in 5th gear, top gear here all the way down, and looking to his left hand side for his brake marker, and braking there at the 100-yard board as he comes into Big Bend, hits the turn 1 apex spot on, lets the car roll out a little bit before turning for turn number 2, and now carrying the throttle through up into 3, into left-hander on the brakes here, staying in 3rd gear as he just gradually encroaches towards that very late apex curve, and then bringing it over to left for right-hander at turn 4, balance the throttle there on the apex, let the car drop off and get back to full throttle as he now makes his way up the no-name straight in towards uphill bend. And as he comes into the right hand here, it's going to all be about lift off the throttle, just let the car coast into the apex and get back on the throttle as soon as possible. Keeps it nice and wide there, uses all the width of the road as he comes into turn 6. Another lift in 4th gear here, clips a bit the apex curve. Got to be careful the turn 6 apex curve. It can put the front right tyre up in the air, and with that unsettles the car. But through turn number 7 he goes, clips the apex, lets the car gradually push downwards with the weight and the natural momentum of the machine. And as he comes to the timeline, that is a lap of Lime Rock Park Classic Layout, as brought to you by Shane Piggott at 57.650. It puts him half a second off of the pole time at the moment, but Pollard are absolutely going for it. And when it's a short lap, it's a very smooth lap from Piggott, and that smoothness could bode very well in the race, of course, particularly if he's in a long line or train of cars, if you will. And we are expecting the racing to be a little bit slipstream train orientated round here. We'll likely see the drivers devolve into packs, and then they have to wait for the opportunity. So in the 21 lap races, it will be the start of the race that's going to be critical, and also during the race we may see drivers fall off or try to catch up to the next pack, but it's those final 2 to 3 laps where it could all unfold in dramatic fashion. As meanwhile, a bit of drama potentially down in the pit lane for Mark Sykes and Darren Ills at P13 and P14 respectively, yet to get really a major time on the board compared to their peers, as we do see Benny making his way on through turn 4 up towards turn number 5, currently P11 as Ills leaving the pit lane. Sykes having his car serviced at the moment, and he'll be hoping to head back out, as we do see there almost a bit of a run wide for Benny, just about keeps it within track limits as he comes into turn number 6. And you really have to send the car into these corners. And with this circuit, of course, a very popular one on iRacing, it is normally featuring a lot of the rookie series or the beginner series. And what I can see from my experience of racing the Toyota GR86 Cup machine around here, it does get very fun indeed. Albeit those series do normally run the non-classic layout with the chicane at uphill corner rather than the flying right-hander. But the point being, it's a great circuit in which to really break your duck with regards to sim racing, the iRacing platform. And as Lewis Benny makes way for turns at 1 and 2 at Big Bend, will continue to find that momentum. Now only 2 tenths of a Mark Cadwell's P11 time, and Cadwell 3 tenths of a Phil McDougall. Speaking of which, here's the CXR Project Black driver, and as he heads towards the second half of this qualifying session very shortly, I think right now we are starting to see a mid-pack where we do have that separation between Lease and what is McDougall of only 3 attempts, if that in fact is more towards 2.5 tenths, and we'll find in a single tenth for McDougall right now would move him all the way up to where it would be P8. If he finds 1.5 tenths, it will put him P7, and if he finds 2 tenths, well, that will be putting him still P7, but it'll put him very close to Manners. But the point being here, there really is fine margins in qualifying that's going to make the difference now, as meanwhile Daniel Fritz for Whiskey Runners Racing heading in towards turn number 3. Do love the team name, indeed love the colours on the car. They're really shining high, the colour of whiskey all over it. We're not encouraging you to drink, of course. You do it at your discretion, but of course if you're under the appropriate age in respect to country, we can't encourage you to drink. But what we can do is encourage you to have a nice cool beverage with you, or a hot beverage if it's a cool day where you are, and make sure to get set in for the racing, because qualifying right now definitely get fast and furious here, and when we do go racing, the tempo is only going to intensify. But as Fritz makes his way into turn 6 and through on towards 7 very shortly, well, we'll be looking from what is him to Mikey Pollard, as Pollard heads on through turn number 4, coming through right-hander down the no-name straight, and he's the fastest man on an outlap currently. And well, as he comes up towards turn number 5, I think it might be a bit of a shootout between Pollard and Delmont, with Dory also trying to sandwich himself into the mix, albeit Dory at this time a whole tenth off of Delmont, and when you are 2 tenths off at the top end of the field, it does require a bit of magic, albeit I think some drivers maybe feel as though they just haven't hit the right lap. And as we do see Pollard heading through the final corner, we will be jumping on board with him for a flying lap here of the circuit from the eyes of the prime driver. Staying on down towards turn number 1, and we'll see what he's potentially doing differently compared to Piggott, albeit as he breaks away, and a really aggressive entry line there from Pollard, turning the car in before going on to the brakes and letting the car fly on through, and the very smooth return to the apex of turn number 2, brings down over to the right hand side for turn number 3, up to 4th gear, decides to go 1 gear up and drops to 3rd there on apex, and as he comes through 3 into 4, through left-hander into right-hander, back up to 4th gear, using the upshift there to get to full throttle and really let the car settle him down. as he now makes his way into 5th, into uphill corner, turn number 5. Holds the 5th gear, lifts off the throttle, lets the car run a bit deep, uses the runoff strip there, and as he makes way up towards turn number 6, it's a very aggressive lap from Pollard as he comes on through the right-hander, clips the curb slightly. You can see how much it's unsettling the car. As soon as he clips it even, he has to really fight the steering wheel to repoint the car, coming up through downhill at 7 to complete the lap. And well, for Pollard, I don't think it's going to be an improvement in the first half of the lap, but the second half of the lap definitely now gaining according to our timing screens. And as he comes across the line, not quite enough yet for Pollard, but definitely when he's trying to beat his own lap time, I think he'll take some confidence in the fact that right now he's put quite a hard bar in there. And meanwhile, Adam Delmont, who is trying to beat it, as McNally goes purple in subsector 4, well, in fact subsector 3 we should say, and that's the run through what is uphill bend at turn 5 into turn number 6. So well, it is going to be interested to see how there is a response as we see more push here from Adam Delmont as he makes his way down towards turn number 1. Indeed, Adam and Ali right now putting in some interesting times as Pollard meanwhile goes fastest in that subsector 3 on the lap he's currently on. So everybody really now starting to find that time, and well, who can potentially gain some more place here. We've still got 4.5 minutes of qualifying to go, so it's not over yet. But as we look to Ian Manners, the other DCW racing machine, as Pollard there lets his teammate go. Of course, there's no teams championship, but drivers are allowed to race in the 4 teams in this series. And as he comes across the timeline, what's it going to be here for Manners? If there is going to be any more time, he does improve in subsector 1, but the rest of the lap he does not find the time at all. And well, they're 4 tenths of his previous best, and I think the lap time is falling away from the circuit, albeit Shane Pigott proves us wrong there immediately by going P5 on a 57.438. And it's Pollard who does seem to be delivering the goods. He's currently the fastest man on circuit by a whole 10th versus Delmont, and well, Delmont gets within a 10th now onto a 57.248, but still Delmont having to try and chop away with some more time, and Pigott moving into that P5. We've got the 4 pros together, P2 through to P5, but it's the Prime who's on pole currently, and then it's the Prime of Manners behind. So we do have a DCW sandwich, and it is filled with a massive amount of pro filling, as meanwhile we do look from Pigott to what is Michael Lees, and Lees in P7 as he heads towards the timing line here, coming down towards the turn 1 braking zone. Does not improve this time around as he heads down the Samposi straight onto another lap and going on to his 10th, well, in fact his 11th lap in qualifying, and still plenty more out. He's going to have this lap plus at least 2 more should he time it right. And as he comes in towards turn 3, where else can he improve? That's the question. In terms of his lap times, have been consistent in this qualifying session. Just find himself 4 tenths off of Manners, or not off of Manners I should say, off of pole, and only what is 1/1000th off of Manners. Meanwhile, we do see Phil McDougall in P6. He jumps up onto a 57.439. So McDougall definitely finding time, albeit equal to the lap time set by Shane Pigott. But as Shane Pigott set it first, therefore Pigott does have the right to the higher position on the grid, as it's not calculated down to the 10,000th, it's only down to the 1,000th. And well, when the margins are that close right now, every 1,000th is absolutely critical. Whether you're Phil McDougall or turning to Michael Lees, and Lees trying to find just a tiny bit more time, he heads to the timeline. What's it going to be this time around? Does not find an improvement. Meanwhile, we look to Darren Eales. We're heading on through turns 1 and 2 through Big Bend he goes. 2.5 minutes still on the clock here. He's currently P13. He's 2 tenths off of Benny's time, but he's still got more to go as Pollard goes even faster at the top. Goes at 57.133, and that does mean now Delmont is just over a 10th behind the pole sitter. And well, it does look as though our Prime driver are really gunning for gold here in qualifying, as we see. That's Lees getting it very wrong in the rear of the picture, just taking a wheel to the grass on the exit of 4, on the entry of 4, and as a result, the car making its way to the barrier, and for Michael Lees that may be the end of his qualifying session, because I suspect with that wounded car he'll not be improving. He'll have to bring it into the pit lane, or he's going to have to be towed quickly, but I don't think he's going to have enough time as the car just goes straight on there for Michael Lees, and that's where the damage has been picked up. But meanwhile we look to Shane Pigott as he heads on down towards turn number 6 here, coming through the sweeping right-hander, and as he heads in towards the next sweeping right-hander to conclude the lap of downhill at 7. Well, has he been able to find the time this time around? I don't think so. I think what he'll do, given the fact he'll have 1 more, in fact he'll have 2 more laps, including the one he's about to go on to, because we do have overtime rules in effect, which means that if our drivers are on a lap at the 15-minute timer, they are allowed to finish that lap. He'll have an opportunity to improve. Meanwhile, Jamie Dory heading to the timeline. He's gone purple, fastest of everybody in subsector 3, and as he crosses the line, he stays P3, does not improve at what was a 58.189. His previous best, of course, of 57.37. So nobody finding that time. If they are, it's in small increments. And for Jamie Dory, well, if he can't find it now, I think it's going to be a second row start, given the fact that he's got to try and overhaul 1.2 temps versus Delmont. And meanwhile, is anybody else on the fast one? Well, Lee's on an out lap, so he's going to try and sneak in one more lap, given the fact he's had to be towed and quickly turn the car around. And as we look to Matthew Addy, with the Sam Cases UK Next Gen Racing driver in P9, 5.5 tenths off a pole. And meanwhile, he's only, what is 1.5 tenths off Elise's time in P8, but I think this might be a firm P9 start, as we see the majority of the field now starting to make its way into the pit lane. I think most drivers frustrated, they can't find any more time. Addy's going to try and go one last run, and meanwhile the same for Delmont and Dory, and also Piggott has just crossed the timeline, and Addy will not get another lap as he goes a bit deep, and I think that might be enough track to end his lap before he's able to start the next one as he comes on through turn number 7. And for Addy, it is not what it takes. It's gone deep and wide there, and for Matthew Addy, it's all ended in difficulty in qualifying as he heads across the line. And well, we still do have 3 drives. In fact, yes, we do have 3 drives out there on laps currently. Adam Delmont, Jamie Dory, and also with Michael Lees. And well, Michael Lees currently the lead man of the trio, all 3 Next Gen Racing drivers, and all trying to find that last little bit of time as Lees goes a little bit faster on his personal best in Sector 1. As he heads in towards his turn at number 6 and breaks his way down the hill very shortly into the final corner, albeit he won't be using the actual brakes, he'll be lifting and coasting more than anything. He's only improved in subsector 1, he's not improved elsewhere on the lap, and coming on through and towards the timeline. What's it going to be here from Lees? He's currently P8, he's almost 4 tenths off a pole, and as he finds time, he moves up to P3. Michael Lees does it right at the end of the session, and that is a great gain there. Jamie Dory cross the line, he can't improve. And what about Adam Delmont? Well, Delmont's into the pit lane, so he left it late, he left it to the final lap, but Michael Lees takes P3 on the grid, and that'll be by 2 tenths off of the pole lap set by Mikey Pollard in the prime and overall categories. Meanwhile, pro pole position is Adam Delmont, he'll be starting P2, and where it's going to be Lees and Dory on the second row. So we've got prime ahead of pro on the front 2 rows. It is going to be a spectacular start to this race, there's no question about it, but that is qualifying complete, ladies and gentlemen. And well, how will it now play out when we do go to green flag conditions? We are only moments away from finding out. As our drivers make their way to the grid for our first race of the day, this is how they'll line up. It's Mikey Pollard who takes pole position for DCW Racing at prime and overall, and is joined on the front row by Adam Delmont. Behind him will be Michael Lees for Next Gen Racing, and the Next Gen Racing driver not quite able to beat his teammate to P2, but still he'll be pleased with that P3, and the prime is joined by the pro of Adam McNally from Next Gen Racing. Phil McDougall starts P5 or 6 our Project Black, with Ace of Spades racing Shane Piggott P6. Jamie joining in only managing at P7 at once all the invalid lap times are discounted, and the Next Gen Racing driver joined on the fourth row by DCW Racing's Ian Manners, with the 2 primes and Matthew Addy for Next Gen Racing and Whiskey Runners Racing Daniel Fritz completing your top 10. Mark Cadwell starts P11 there, the privateer, joined by Lewis Racing's Lewis Benny, who starts P12, and into our final 2 spots on the grid, it's Darren Hills from Ace of Spades Racing and Mark Sykes, who starts P14 out of 14 for Next Gen Racing. And of course, we do have our safety car on hand should there be a major incident which requires the safety car to be deployed. But with that, that's the grid set, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do look to the blimp camera here, well, it may not be an absolutely packed circuit in terms of cars out on circuit, but I can tell you one thing: what we lack in quantity of drivers on the grid today is made up for in terms of the supply and quality of our drivers and their abilities. But as we look our way on down the order right now, most of our drivers are on the grid. We are just waiting for Shane Piggott to be in place. You can see the spot there midway down the order, albeit on the right. He falls into position, and it's just for the safety car to take its spot in the pit lane, and then we are lights out and away we go. But Pollard is going to have the run to turn 1 to contend with, and will he be able to nail it off the start finish line, or will Delmont be able to find a way to leapfrog him around the outside? It is a short run, but albeit a possible one as they get set. And look out for, of course, what is just behind Michael Lees as well. Lees will be wanting to really carry the momentum from the end of qualifying, but will he be able to do so with Adam McNally also in the frame? We are only 5 to 6 seconds away from the lights out sequence, and as we do look closer down to the circuit there, it's time for the lights. And it's lights out and away we go for the first race of the day here in Lime Rock Park. And as Mikey Pollard gets a good start off the line, Adam Delmont matches in, but as they make their way out through the gearbox, Pollard will have the defence he needs here into Big Bend at turn 1, but it's going to be Delmont who tries to go all the way round. Behind him, it's the same story for Michael Lees versus where's Adam McNally. McNally trying to get a nose ahead, but look at Delmont on the right. You're picturing the foreground on the inside. They're into left-hander, and well, Delmont takes the lead of the race in quick fashion as they come through into the right-hander at turn number 4. Further behind, Phil McDougall battling side by side there with Jamie Dory, but has to let it go as he comes to the right-hander, and as they power their way up towards what is turn at number 4 and charging all the way into 5 now. Further back, we can also see a little bit of a square off here between Cadmore and Benny. Benny on the inside there, but Cadmore goes down the outside and makes the battle for P11 count as he moves up into the aforementioned position. As they head down towards turn at number 6, we can see the back four starting to fall away to a degree as they battle hard, but now they'll have to settle down in some sense of rhythm as Benny there having a really poor run through turn number 6, and Sykes and Darren Hills all over the back of him. But meanwhile, we look to the leaders as they make the way onto lap number 2 very shortly, and after one lap it's Adam Delmont who leads ahead of Mikey Pollard P2, Adam and Ali P3, followed by Michael Lees P4, Jamie Dory P5, followed by Phil McDougall P6, and then it's going to be Matthew Annie and Shane Piggott P7, P8, and then Ian Manners P9 with Daniel Fritz P10, but so it's Mark Cadmore. But meanwhile, we've got a battle for P7 grind with Piggott versus Ali. Piggott on the inside there through Big Ben, he moves up to P7, and whilst they've been exchanging places, meanwhile Michael Lees falling out of order, but in fact that's Mikey Pollard who's been knocked about a little bit, out of sequence there, and around his outside it goes Jamie Dory. Dory looking all in here as they make the way on down towards turn at number 5, and as they head on to the brakes with Pollard losing ground early on in this race, and not the way where it started at all. The pole sitter down to P5, but the DCW Racing driver 9, it's a long race here, and indeed every lap a critical one. He can't get too ashamed about it right now in terms of the fact he may have lost ground early, but he's still got plenty of ground to make later on in the race, and that's the thing. You're not going to be breaking away very rapidly here as we've got a car getting it very wrong, and that's Adam McNally, who has had the mother of all moments going through turn number 7, getting it wrong for the Next Gen Racing driver, and he finds himself completely out of sequence. He's going to be sent a long way down the order, and I think Manners is going to take a look up the inside, and so will Fritz. The door is so wide open, and everyone says, yes please, we want to come on through, but McNally right now trying to get himself back up into order as he now rejoins the racing in P9 behind Ian Manners as they head in towards turn number 3 once again. As they head on through and down, meanwhile Mark Sykes here still trying to find his way past Lewis Benny, and Benny, after what was that mistake at turn number 6 when he just seems not to be able to carry the speed, Benny's struggling, and Sykes all over the back of him as we jump on board here with the number 666 Sykes machine as he comes up towards turn number 5, and well, can he find the momentum here in the uphill run? That'll be the challenge that confronts him as we do have this nice little battle between Benny, Sykes and Hills, and you can see that Benny goes a bit wide, Sykes backs off by comparison, thinking about a move on the inside into 6, can't quite find as they come on through, but they mount the curve, and that's where Benny's losing the time. He's hitting the curve very aggressively. Sykes looks up the inside. He's going to go and win at turn number 7. And as they come through the right hander, well, Benny gives him the space on the inside. Sykes shows them respect in return. Meanwhile, we've got a car pointing the wrong way, and that's Shane Piggott who's gone on the round, coming out of turn number 7. I think there might have been some contact between Piggott and another driver. If not, it's the grass. But meanwhile, Benny, Hills, and also Sykes go 3-1 into turn 1. Darren Hills goes very hot on the brakes, outbrakes himself, and Sykes cuts back there and picks up the place in the end. But the Ace of Spades racing driver went all for it, given the fact that he did see both Sykes and Benny compromising one another, as we see Daniel Fritz taking an adventure to the grass. I think he might have run wide out of turn number 2. Perhaps he's given a little bit of a push wide, but either way, Daniel Fritz now at the back of the field in the number 7 Whiskey Runners Racing machine. And as we look back up towards where's P6 here, the Next Gen Racing driver of Matthew Addy will right now holding firm with Ian Manners tucked in behind as they make the way in towards turn at number 6 once more. And going on through the right-hander and down the hill they go. Of course, we've seen the spectacle of the battle outside the top 10 towards the back of the field. And now the battling continues here inside the top 10. Oh, goodness me, and the drive getting it very wrong. And I believe that's not Jamie Dory getting it wrong, or is it? I think it was Michael Lees who's got it seriously wrong, as we do see Lees returning, albeit there. I think there's quite a bit of a story. I think he might have snapped loose coming out to turn number 7, had to battle to keep the car pointed on circuit. And unfortunately, we can't get you a replay of that due to limitations of post-round broadcast, but we can tell you is Michael Lees has fallen back to P4. He's released the place to Jamie Dory and Mikey Pollard, and as he makes way out of turn number 4, I mean, Jamie Dory there also having a small mistake as he falls to the grass again, and Next Gen Racing trying to let Pollard go. So his mistakes are plenty, and as we said earlier, consistency is so critical around here, and even the smallest lapse of concentration is going to be punished. As meanwhile, Adam Delmont, your race leader, he's out of frame, he's out of picture, and he's out of sight and out of mind. But as we see a bit of contact there between Dory and Woodies Lees, as they make the way on through, Dory trying to go around the outside, Lees, he gets it done, albeit Lees are really now trying to get the move on here and trying to tell Dory to get a hurry up as Addy goes a bit deep and carrying all the speed out out the corner, plus some dirty air coming off the back of Phil McDougall's car. As we say hello to Phil McDougall in the YouTube chat, we see him right now trying to put the move onto Lee's, looking around the outside into Big Ben, can't quite find it. But Phil McDougall, once again, he hasn't gained or lost any places since the start of this race, but he does have this habit of just silently creeping up on the opposition, and he's done that here as he's found his way now into the battle for P2 overall, and what effect he is for him, the battle for P1 in the prime class, presuming that Pollard falls into this group for a little bit longer as they make the way through turn number 4 and out towards turn number 5. Again, now everybody's settling down here. We are starting to transition into that quieter part, the midpoint of the race, where everybody now starts to think more about managing, being part of the pack and not making any mistakes. And anybody who pushes hard at this point, they're going to be taking a bit more life out of the car compared to what they will want to have available to them at the end of the race. Remember, of course, these front wheel drive machines really aggressive on those front tyres, and it's the front left tyre here that really takes the beating as we see that a mistake, and I believe that may be for Jamie Dory, who rejoins, and he's out of form as he rejoins, and that means he's going to have a lot less speed on the run down the San Posey straight as he heads into the braking zone. Matthew Addy and Ian Manners trying to come through. Manners coming from very far back, and in the end decides against it, but meanwhile Matthew Addy saying, right, I'm going for this, and Dory tries to outbrake him into Big Ben, but it only goes one way, and that goes the way of Addy, as Dory now trying to come back as they make the way into turn number 3, and as they do, we ride on board looking back from the rear of Addy's car as he defends here through the left into right-hander complex of 3 and 4. You can see here being off race line does cost him a little bit of speed, albeit Dory now falling into his clutches. There's a run all the way out towards turn number 5, and well, Dory thinks about it, but again, he can't quite go for it. If it was the chicane, he'd be able to look for it, but here with the fast lane right hand, you've got to set up the move into turn 6 or 7, preferably the run out of 7 onto the start-finish straight. But Addy here making his car as wide as he needs to be as he comes on down the hill and in towards the right-hander at turn number 7 once more. And making the way through the right, we say hello there to Ample71 in at the Twitch chat, who's enjoying the race and says great racing, glad to have you with us, Ample. And meanwhile we can see here Dory making a small mistake off of turn number 7 as he does. Ian Manners now looking for the opportunity to go up the inside. The Prime here versus the Pro, they slide on the brake in the pair of them, both pushing it to the limit. Dory just about finding the edge of the track on the outside, and Manners almost going with him. And I think both drivers there having what we like to call in the industry a Code Brown moment, in terms of the fact both pushing so hard to brake, and in the end both finding the very upper echelon of where they need to brake as late as possible. But meanwhile, we look to Michael Lees trying to hold off Phil McDougall here as they head up towards turn number 5, and all the battle for the runner-up spot in the prime class with Mikey Pollard now 3 seconds clear of this, your prime leader. When he's run off into the distance, you see him there for a brief moment in the camera shot, but as we do see Lees here heading in towards turn number 6, I think the 55 driver now just conscious of the fact that McDougall really is threatening as they head down towards turn number 7. They're not even at the halfway point in this race yet, we should point out. We've got the top 2 breaking away, and then the rest of the field now following suit, and all trying to push on as much as they can, and it's a fight for P3 for the rest of the field as they head on to the next lap. But behind them, Matthew Addy going a bit wide again out of turn 7. Addy really struggling with the final corner, or even in his own impetus, and as they come through Big Bend, I think Addy just pushing a bit too hard. It's when he wants to be in this fight, you can understand why he's pushing as much as he is, but I think really to get closest, he just needs to calm it down a little bit, because Elise and McDougall will take time out of one another. It's practically guaranteed when they follow one another this closely, and McDougall will be looking for the opportunity, but then again, can Elise just find that tempo to keep McDougall at bay, and potentially they might start working together, as we do see there Addy being flashed by Jamie Dory, and I think Dory just trying to get into the head of Addy as they come through turn number 5. But we know one thing about the next gen racing with Sam Case's UK driver of Addy is he does not get distracted by lights. He doesn't normally see them, I do believe, quoting from him back in NXTGEN season 2, when other drivers are flashing him, he just completely forgets about them, and Dory there once again giving him a bit of a flash to try and get in his head as they make the way through a downhill corner at turn number 7, but things stay as they are. But meanwhile, Elise is still being chased by the other rise in the 6R Project Black machine, and McDougall takes a look to the inside. Elise turns it a bit later, goes a bit deep. They both go onto the brakes, and it's going to be close here as they come through the corner, making the way through, and McDougall was so close, he almost takes the camera off the rear of the car as they come through turn 2 into 3. On the way through left-hander into right now, and well, McDougall doing everything in his power to stay evidently closer and closer for a quarter of the corner. The idea being here is he wants to be so close that it's either going to be a mistake from Lees or McDougall will have the move, and as they head up towards turn number 5 into the right, they go uphill and through. No way this time, McDougall backing off slightly there. Lees goes a little bit sideways. You can see the car now starting to come loose, where he's expecting more and more out the front axle every time he hits that corner, and of course tyre degradation starting to kick in on the front as they make their way to the midpoint of this race. We're coming downhill into turn number 7. Both drivers then now separating to a degree. It gives them a bit of breathing room. It gives us a bit of breathing room as the pace calms down to a degree. I think Ian Madou will just get himself set up for the next potential run going into the final quarter. And again, look at the difference in approach down to brake. Madou much more aggressive, pointing the car in towards the corner. Meanwhile, Lee's just gently bringing the car to corner apex, and it's a difference of a tenth there under braking. But of course, now Madou can get as close as he wants, but the problem is he's still got to get past the rear end of Lee's car, and this is where Lee's is just making himself so wide as they come through four. And of course, Madou will have to deal with direction change, plus a bit of dirty air, which makes the car less sensitive to rotation. And as they make the way towards turn number 5, the gap opens back up to 3 tenths as they roll the way on through. Madou here just needs to get the right launch off the corner. He does get it nicely compacted there, but the problem is now that Lee's has a 3/10 advantage, and that is not a gap that just suddenly goes away. You've got to have a long run. You've got the Samposi straight coming up, but then again coming for the right hander, turn number 7. This is where the Briton really does need to nail it. He doesn't quite get enough, albeit at least does take to the grass. There were 2 wheels. That will cost a bit of straight end speed, but the gap now setting him back down to 3 tenths. They make the way onto lap number 12, but looking from them to the race leader here of Adam Delmont. Will Delmont quite comfortably leading at this time by what is 2 seconds over Mikey Pollard, albeit that last lap losing at 2 tenths to Pollard, and Pollard is closing the gap gradually. He will have enough time as he continues at that rate of knots in order to be able to try and bring that gap down. Meanwhile, Matthew Addy, well, he's had a run off there at what is turn number 2, the second part of Big Bend Corner, and the Next Gen Racing drive dropping all the way down from what was P5 to P9. It's gone wrong for him. Meanwhile, Lees and Pollard, well, it's going to be Madou there. Madou and he's, oh my good lord, and will the two of them coming together, and will in the end, Lees turning Madou across the front of him. Well, either way, as Madou tries to get the car back up to speed, he went through on the inside into turn number 5, and the two of them went side by side, and they came together, and the thing is for the Briton now, he's come off the worst from it, and the CXR Project Map machine that still continues. It's not out of the race yet, but now it's a long way down the order. It's down into P10, and its next time will be Mark Sykes, who conversely now finds himself comfortably inside the top 10 for the first time in racing today as he makes his way down the back straight. As he makes his way down the start-finish straight, which is correct in our terminology, and as he comes on down, Madou immediately on the offensive here, absolutely coming in blazing on, and Mark Sykes simply says, well, you can do that, but I'm going to go up the inside, and to compound Madou's woes even more, taking 2 wheels to the grass, and when you fall onto the grass here, the car just starts to career away from you. But Mark Sykes there showing professionalism in terms of not being daunted by Madou's charge, and right now the 666 driver just holding on to P6 in the prime class, P9 overall. But meanwhile, as he makes his way up towards turn number 5, I think Madou will be coming back for another offensive, and next time he won't be coming in as hot. But as they come through uphill corner, we look from them to a little bit further back to Daniel Fritz running in at P11 at the moment, the Whiskey Runners Racing driver. And in terms of relative pace, he is gradually starting to match the pace of Mark Sykes, albeit in that last lap he was 2 tenths down, but he is closing. So I think Fritz just doing some work on the car here, trying to figure out what's wrong with it after an off track earlier on, which has put some damage on the car as far as my understanding, and therefore just getting in to a bit of a rhythm. We do have one car in the pit lane, that's Adam McNally, who unfortunately has had to retire the car, so we'll not be seeing any more of him out on circuit in his first race of the day, but he'll be looking to come back in race number 2, as meanwhile we look from Daniel Fritz to Darren Ills, our last driver out on circuit at the moment, the Ace of Spades Racing driver, coming on through turn number 7, and onwards towards turn 1 he goes, and as he makes his way all the way down towards a Big Bend, once again not quite on the pace compared to his peers. The only driver he is matching or outpacing, well, he is matching with Daniel Fritz and Phil McDougal's pace currently, but he's not quite on the pace of where's the rest of the field, and also he is going faster than Lewis Benny, who is 7 seconds up the road. We could see a bit of battle between them towards the end, given the fact that Benny is on average 6 to 7 tenths slower in clean air versus Darren Ills. But meanwhile, we look from the back of the field to the front of the field, and here is what is Adam Delmont, the number 37 driver, coming on through with turns 1 and 2, and as he comes out on towards the left-hander here, well, you can see Pollard closing very rapidly indeed. That gap down to now to 1.8 seconds, albeit in that last lap Delmont did respond and managed to make sure the rate of closure is dropped to a 10. So at this rate of knots, Pollard will not be close enough to look for a move on the final lap. Indeed, he will need to keep closing that gap down by at least 2.5 tenths now to have an opportunity, because after this lap they will have another 6 to go from lap 16 to 21. Meanwhile, looking from them, with Shane Piggott here trying to chase after Mark Cadbot, another driver who's just risen through the field. quietly, and that is the number 40 car, the Happy Machine, as he makes his way out to turn at number 5 and down towards 6. And as he does here, coming into the right-hander, as I said earlier, it smiles a minute when Cadmore's around, and right now I think it's going to be smiles a minute in the cockpit of that car, because he'll know he's P4 in the prime class and on course for one of his best results of the season as he comes on through a downhill corner and onto the start-finish straight. But still, he's going to have the contender Shane Piggott behind, and Piggott will be thinking all about that move nice and early as soon as he can get it done. So he wants to go hunting after Ian Manners, but Cadmore here just holding his line for now and letting Wits Piggott get himself all out of fashion, coming into Big Bend and out of it. But Cadmore goes a bit deep, and well, they're almost losing the rear of the car as he breaks away into left-hander. But as he comes on through turn number 3, you can see that Piggott going for the cutback, but he's got to wait his turn. Albeit Cadmore goes a little bit deep. Piggott's going to look for the move here as they come onto No Name straight. 2 wide as they go for the kink, and coming in towards uphill bend. Will Piggott here decides it's safer to play behind rather than go too wide in. I think he might be drawing on the experience from at least McDougall through that corner early on in the race. And as he comes down through 6 into 7, now coming through the right and into the next right-hander. Cadmore again just proving to be a little bit of a thorn in the side of Piggott currently, and not really responding to Piggott's pressure, instead just keeping his car cool. As meanwhile up the road, Michael Lee's having an off track, and it's gone wrong for Piggott there as he collects the car just in time. Shane Piggott, much like a number of other drivers before him, just missing going into the tyre barrier and pit lane entry, or in fact ducking into the pits and collecting the car again. But the Ace of Spades racing driver, I think now he will have his heart in his mouth, let alone his chest, in the fact that the number 27 car almost saw its race end before it could get to that checker flag. But Piggott now will have to try and close up a 1.2 second gap to Cadmore. And meanwhile, from there, we do have Phil McDougall trying to put the pressure on Mark Sykes as he comes on through at turn number 3, and up towards 4 and 5 they'll begin to charge as they come through the proverbial right-hander of 4, where you can see Sykes here again just maintains the line, and that's the thing as well, defending here. The road surface may be wide, but it is one natural line, and what you do have to have the driver behind really find a way to get fully alongside you. If they commit to a 50-50 pass where they've only got a quarter of their car overlapping with yours, they normally will have to back out, as otherwise it's only going to end in tears. But as they make their way through 6 into 7, the 6R Project Black Machine at McDougall is hunting, and right now looking to try and take P6 in the prime class off of Sykes. They head towards what will be lap number 18. 4 more to go here, and you can see there Sykes a little bit worried about McDougall's pace as he does do a little bit of a bob and weave into the centre and back onto the racing line as he heads into the braking zone for the big bend of a Symposium. Through the double right they go. McDougall's there, he's getting very close. We jump on board with the 83 machine as he comes out of 2, in towards 3 goes, looking for the cutback here into left-hander. Sykes goes a bit deep, and well, McDougall tries to squeeze in. Now looking to cut back again into right-hander at 4, but Sykes there simply parks on the apex and says, if I go deep, you come with me too. And as they come out of the corner, McDougall here has the better speed off the corner, but he's going to be made to go around the outside. This is going to be close stuff between them. 2 wide into uphill they go. Are they going to emerge 2 wide? They are. Albeit McDougall gets a nose ahead and Sykes stucks in. It's a brave move from the 6R Project Black driver. Phil McDougall moves up into P9 there in a brilliant move as he comes through turn number 6, and now his next target is Matthew Addy, albeit Addy 4.5 seconds up the road. I think that may be a bit adventurous for him to catch in the time remaining, but still he'll move up to P9, and that is likely, presume they finish as they stand. That is where he'll be starting in race number 2, and where it's a critical gain. He's still got many more gains to go in the second race of the day. Meanwhile, we look back to Michael Lees, and Lees, after his few mistakes towards the end of this race, right now he's got Jamie Dury chasing after him for P3. Will be at least here 9.5 seconds off of Pollard, who is of course your lead prime driver, and now it's Lees who's runner-up in the prime class currently. And as he heads in towards turn number 4, we'll just keep his cool here as he heads on around, and I don't think he's going to be under major pressure as we do see Dory almost mating the car with the wall there, and well, that would have been a bit of a disaster for certain. And well, speaking about closing battles, here's your 2 leaders. They are 10 seconds clear of the rest of the field, but the key point is Pollard is closing, and he is not closing at a slow rate. They've got 2 more laps to go. Pollard is now within 7.5 tenths on the corner apex there of turn number 1, and if he can maintain this distance, he will get quite the tow down the Samposi straight, and indeed in the latter half of lap this could be his opportunity to close up and have a last-ditch attempt in the final corner on the final lap, albeit as they make their way through turns 3 and 4. Pollard here not close enough to really gain now, and further back we do have an instant for Jamie Dory, who's gone off there at Big Bend at turns 1 and 2, and well, Cadmore's going to come on through, and I think Cadmore at this point will return a P6, and it's going to be even more joy down in the garage of the privateer driver, in the fact now he finds himself, well, he's still P4 in the prime class, but claiming another pro scalp, Meanwhile, looking from them, back up to Manners. Ian Manners in the DCW Racing Machine, currently P3 on the podium for the Primes, and he's got the pressure of Shane Piggott, so we do have that intermingling of what's the pros and the Primes for certain as they head on down towards the end of what's the penultimate lap. But meanwhile, it's white flag out here for the race leaders as they head on through to Big Ben for the final time of asking in race number 1, and Delmont here in a comfortable lead at the moment. Although I say that, I think right now he'll be feeling less comfortable, knowing of course that Pollard is still 8 tenths away, and even the smallest of mistakes will be punishing as he comes out of 3 into 4, and as they make the way through the right now, it's only 3 more right-handers to go, but all with increasing apex speed. And can Delmont continue this run all the way to the end? You see Pollard there, and he is not quite making enough momentum, albeit it doesn't really matter for Pollard in the fact that in the Prime Championship he will gain the winner's points regardless, but there's always that little bit of pride on the line when you want to try and take the win off of a pro overall, and indeed make yourself the Pro-Am overall winner. But as they make the way towards the final corner here, it's a run to the line, and I think Adam Delmont, despite the pressure, is not going to wilt. The checker flag awaits him, and Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing is your race winner in race number 1 here at Lime Rock Park, and Mikey Pollard P2. And in a further 9.5 seconds back, it will be Michael Lees who rounds off the run to runner up in Prime class, and also P3 overall. And Ian Manners there round off the Prime podium, P4 overall, P3 in class, ahead of Shane Piggott, your runner up in the Pro class, and it'll be Mark Cadwell who brings on home his best result of the season, P4 Prime, P6 overall, ahead of Jamie Dory who rounds off the Pro podium, and then Matthew Addy followed by Phil McDougall in P9 I should say, Mark Sykes P10, Daniel Fritz will come on home at P11 very shortly, and then it will be 11 seconds behind. Well, Lewis Benny coming out the final corner, bouncing off the curve down the apex, it just about keeps her in track limits, but he brings it on home, P12 on the lead lap with a smooth drive there for the 31 Lewis Racing driver. Daniel's finishing a lap down, and Adam McNally our sole retirement. But what a fantastic race number 1, and in the end Adam Delmont holding on to bring on home the key result. But the key thing of course of the 37 driver is Mikey Pollard looking incredibly threatening as the race went deeper and deeper into the distance. And well, can Delmont potentially make it 2 out of 2 in race 2? That'll be the change that confronts him. But speaking of confronting things, let's confront those race results subject to any steward's inquiries. Well, as we see the results coming in, Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing, your race winner in the first race of the day, overall and in the Pro category, jumping ahead of Mikey Pollard, of course, at the race start, and then never looking back. And meanwhile, the DCW Racing driver making it a P2 at the finish in a great drive and taking out the Pro-Am win with it. Albeit, I think, regretting the fact he couldn't hold on to that pole position all the way from lights out to checker flag, but still a good recovery to P2, and that's what mattered most, getting the winner's points in class. P3 for Michael Lees for Next Gen Racing, rounds off the overall podium there in another stellar result, with Ian Manners round off the Prime podium in P4 overall for DCW Racing, and then Ace of Spades racing Shane Piggott P5 in what has been his strongest performance to date, no question about it, and well, he'll be taking that momentum into the second race. Mark Cadwell P6, and also a personal best result of the season for the privateer, ahead of Jamie Dory, the Pro driver, rounding off the Pro podium of Delmont, Piggott and Dory, and he finished ahead of his Next Gen Racing teammate, and Matthew Addy, with Phil McDougall and Mark Sykes completing the top 10 there for 6R Project Black and Next Gen Racing respectively. Daniel Fritz P11 in the end, a mistake at turns 1 and 2 early on the race, costing him dear for Whiskey Runners Racing, but still 2 more races to make a recovery from. And then Lewis Benny P12 for Lewis Racing, with Darren Ills finishing a lap down there, P13 for Ace of Spades Racing, and we did have the one retirement of Adam McNally, who retired after what was a grand total of 6 laps completed for Next Gen Racing. And that's race 1 of the day, ladies and gentlemen, and we still have plenty more racing to go, with race number 2 coming up very shortly, and we'll be back in approximately 5 to 6 minutes to bring you all the build up and more as we get ready to go racing once again. Don't go anywhere, you won't miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for the build-up to race 203 today here at Oulton Park in the state of Connecticut in the US of A. And after a brilliant race number one, which saw standout performances from both Adam Delmont in the Pro class and Mikey Pollard in the Pram class, the question is, are we going to see more of the same in the second race? And well, I think that's all going to come down to the launch of the line for our respective drives. And indeed, we have seen around here that consistency and concentration are ever so critical to success, with a number of drivers making critical mistakes and falling off the circuit at the worst possible point in the race. But as we do see Ian Manners making his way on around for turn 6 into 7, well, we are approximately about a minute or two away from heading to the grid for our second race, and we don't be fooled by the practice timer in the top centre of your screen there. There is a little bit of a timing error on our overlay board, and we are expecting that we are currently only about 2 minutes out from heading to the grid. But as we make our way to that grid very shortly, what can we expect in race number 2? Well, I think it's all going to be about drivers looking to try and bounce back to a degree, albeit we are going to be missing our fourth pro driver, Adam Nally. Unfortunately, the damage picked up in race number 1, not able to get the car repaired, it would seem, by the team for the second race, and hopefully we will see him return for our third race of the day here in round number 4 of the front wheel drive Fridays Cup, and indeed the Clio Cup in particular. But if not, we may be a driver down before we come to the end of the day already. And very unfortunate, it does happen every so often. But as our drivers get set here, we also see Adam Delmont currently parked up. And behind him, that is Mikey Pollard. And both drivers there, of course, with a little bit of a rivalry growing between the two of them. One in the Pro class in Delmont and one in the form of the Pram class of Pollard. And as Delmont makes his way out of the pit lane, well, can the next gen racing driver hold off the pressure? Of course, he got the jump on Pollard into turns 1 and 2 last time. And now Pollard will be looking to try and do the opposite to him in the second race. But of course, it's going to be a different tone as well, with the fact the conditions have evolved slightly, albeit as we do look to the weather on the right hand side of your screen, you'll do notice that we have got a relatively moderate ambient temperature of 26 degrees centigrade, but track temperature is a scorching at 45 degrees centigrade. And what that does mean, tyre preservation becomes critical. Even these short sprint races, those front tyres will definitely feel the pain, and we saw that in particular for Matthew Addy and Michael Lease in our first race, but they seem to be struggling towards the end of the race in the long right hand as the turns 5, 6 and 7, particularly turn number 7, where the car just would not hold as much speed from the corner apex through to exit. And well, could we see some of our faster drivers even at full foul of that in this second race, given how high that track temperature is? That will be the change that confronts them. But as they get set to go, well, we'll have to see whether it haunts them in practice or not. If you are tuning in currently, we are really glad to have you join us today here in this post-round broadcast, and will do let us know your thoughts on race number 1 and we expect in terms of racing for race number 2. Firstly, I think we're going to see plenty more of the same, and I think we will also see some jinking around in the midfield, particularly between our Pram drivers. And well, the big name, of course, that we're looking to try and hold a good start to the day in the second race, Mark Cadwell. That P6 overall finish, P4 in the Pram class. Can the Smiley Privateer machine find a way to make it another top 5 in class, and perhaps even creep into the top 5 overall? And that'll be the first time he's been able to achieve that this season, with P6 overall being his best performance of the season so far. But as we see Shane Piggott parked up there, the ace of spades racing driver, in fact, making his way back into the pits. And well, the two DCW racing machines of Manners and Pollard both sat there now and ready to go racing. I think we are just taking a little bit longer here before we make the transition into the race itself. And well, I think they're just an extended waiting time as Piggott does make his way out onto circuit and decides to go once again to getting the car set up. And well, it was a difficult start to the race for Shane Piggott, but found his way back into the racing order shortly after. But I think also we do have some other drivers who are looking to have a better run of performance in the second one, including Phil McDougall after adventurous overtake versus Michael Lease at turn number 5. And we say adventurous because it did involve, there we go, that's better, as I meant by E's and I's. It's a Wednesday evening, I can assure you. It was a case that he did involve a bit of an adventure to the tyre barrier on the exit of turn number 5, but still the CXR Project Black driver, we know him, he doesn't give up after one race. And with the checker flag out, it's time to head to the grid for race number 2. So our drivers make their way onto the grid. We can't quite take you through how they're going to line up through grid order due to technical limitations, but we can see them all gradually populating the grid. And well, as they do, we can walk you through it with Adam Delmont, of course, starting on pole there. Mikey Pollard alongside him on the front row. Behind them, it will be the pair of what is Michael Lease It won't be quite Michael Leese. In fact, as they all get set, it is Michael Leese, as my memory does dupe me twice. But Michael Leese, they're starting P3 with Ian Mans alongside him on the fourth row. And as we can see our way on down, it's Shane Pickett who starts P5, joined by Mark Cadmore P6, followed up by Jamie Dory P7, and he'll have Matthew Addy for company. It'll then be Phil McDougall P9, joined by Mark Sykes P10, Daniel Fritz P11 with what is behind him at Lewis Benny, and then it will be Darren Ills who starts P13 out of 13 drives, making it to the grid. But as we see them all get themselves set, well, very shortly as we look back up through the order, Pollard will be looking to get the run around the outside into turn number 1, but will Adam Delmont show him up the space needed? Well, here we go, we're about to find out. And it's lights out and away we go for the second race of the day here at Lime Rock Park as all our drivers make their way over the line. And as they head down towards turn at number 1, Delmont immediately defending under, breaking into the opening corner, albeit Pollard there having a smooth start. And you can see Michael Leese also trying to make a lot of ground early as he holds off Ian Manners going for the first 2 apexes. But going for the right-hander and up towards turn number 3 they go. Cadwell falling down the order to a degree as McDougall trying to go round the outside. Gets it done there and Cadwell loses 2 places in the run and through left-hander into right. Meanwhile, Shane Pickett and Jamie Dory also exchanging blows with Pickett getting ahead of Dory as they make their way out of 4 and down towards uphill corner at turn number 5. But now they all start to settle down into line formation for a brief moment. Daniel Fritz as well, gaining multiple places at the start ahead of Mark Sykes. They come uphill and in towards turn 6, but goes a little bit deep though, corner entry. It costs him a lot of speed. And as they make their way in towards the right now, it's going to be Sykes on the return here. It's going to be too wide of corner entry. Sykes gets the inside line. I think there's nowhere to go for Fritz other than to back the car out or otherwise suffer the consequences of contacts. And as they come down into downhill corner at turn number 7, that's the first lap complete. It'll be a little wobble there for Fritz. And meanwhile, Benny closing in behind us. We've also got Lewis Benny closing up now. And it's going to be Darren Ills there who goes all the way past Benny. And also looking up the inside of Fritz in towards turn number 1. Onto the brakes he goes. Can't quite find it. Stays in P12 at the moment. Fritz making another error there. You can see the car wobbling. And Ills will be able to capitalise on that as he moves into P11. Or with Fritz now trying to come back round the outside to inside out. Big bend into left-hander. Too wide they go into the corner. Albeit Ills will have the pace to go around the outside and hold the inside into 4. But right-hander, a tricky corner here, and if he can't quite nail it, Benny's going to try and come on through and make it 3 wide as they come out of the corner. Albeit Ills covers him off here. It's a late move. Benny there being blocked, and as they make the way up into turn number 5, this is going to give Fritz all the time of day to try and search around the outside. Fritz goes a bit deep. Tools in the white lines. It's legal, and as they make the way out of the corner, brilliant racing between the trio here, and Daniel Fritz moves into P11. Meanwhile, looking up towards the front of the field as he makes his way down the start, finish straight onto lap number 3. It's Adam Delmont after 2 laps who leads ahead of Mikey Pollard P2, Michael Leese at P3, followed by Ian Manners P4, Shane Pickett in P5, giving pursuit after Manners with Jamie Dory on his tail. And as they make the way through Big Ben, it's then Phil McDougall P7 and Mark Cadmore P8, albeit now losing out to Matthew Addy. As they come through Big Ben, and Cadwell drops the rear left tyre on to the grass, and Mark Sykes takes the adventure even further out there as he rally crosses his way back onto the tarmac. Shortly, he drops all the way down outside the top 10, but Sykes making a critical error, and well, with that, it means that Matthew Addy's P8, Mark Cadwell's P9, and Daniel Fritz moves up into the top 10. Well, that battle for P11 has definitely boded well, as now he's moved into a top 10 position and looks to try and hold on to it. Benny trying to chase him down. Benny being the best of the rest with Darren Ills in the pit lane. I think there's some damage to the car for Darren Ills after an off-track at turn at number 7, as we've been advised in our ear cup. And meanwhile, as they make their way down towards turn at number 6, no more exchanges at the moment. Things seem to be settling down to a degree towards the bottom end of the top 10. But meanwhile, Shane Pickett under a bit of pressure here as he tries to hold on to P5 and wins second place in the Pro class, with the Ace of Spades racing driver being chased down by the NXTGEN racing driver of Jamie Dory. But as they made their way in to Big Ben this time, onto the brakes they go. Michael Lee sets the fastest lap of the race at 57.002. Well, these two behind quite similar on pace, and well, there we do get a face for Jamie Dory coming out of the corner and in towards turn number 3. And as they make the way out of the left-hander into right-hander now, Dory all over the back of Pickett. Pickett really being made to squirm here as they come on through, but not showing too much signs of abating to the pressure as they head up towards the right-hander of uphill. But of course, coming into the corner here, Dory getting much closer, as is the way, and carrying a lot more speed up towards turn 6 they go. Can he find it here? No, as they lift off and roll the way in, but again, Dory really trying to cut the corner early on the apex line, trying to give himself as much run into the next corner, trying to build up all that speed. And as they make the way out to downhill and on towards the next lap, Pickett almost running a bit wide as they head on down towards the braking zone, albeit no exchange at the moment. And Ian Manners being bought a little bit of breathing room here, as meanwhile in the battle for lead. Adam Delmont already showing signs. I look out my commentary booth window of moving down the start finish straight, down the Samposi straight. Worried, I think, of Pollard gaining a distance home because, of course, the slipstream of these cars is fell out to about 1.5 seconds, albeit it starts to become prominent within 1 second. And as they make the way on through at the next lap, Delmont trying to break that toe, but I think that weaving effect is only assisting Pollard getting a little bit closer. But as we continue to watch this battle here for P4, and Piggott in particular having to really fend on P5 versus Dory in P6, they come through the uphill right-hander, and again, all three drives, they're running to the ragged edge of the limits. As they come in towards the final two corners, Phil McDougall also starting to encroach upon this battle, and the CXR Project Black driver, of course, with top 3 pace here, he's looking now to try and get back into that overall podium, or at least onto what is the prime podium if he can, although he's got a lot of time to try and pull this off. With Matthew Addy running a bit wide, then that's going to open up a gap, but Mikey Pollard sets the fastest lap of the race onto lap number 6 on 56.907. And Manners, meanwhile, there's a bit of a mistake there for Shane Piggott, and it looks like there's potentially a bit of netco contact between himself and Jamie Dory as he came through turn and 1. The Ace of Spades Racing Drive dropped to the grass, and will with that, Piggott now gradually rejoining, but it looks like there might have been a tiny bit of contact there, albeit a faint bit, as they make their way into turn number 3, and now Cadmore moves up position, Piggott falls to P10, and he's going to have to try and knock his way between the prime drives in order to go hunting once more, but as he does here, of course, the pros are really limited in the field compared to the number of primes, and the primes all enjoying this race, there's no doubt about it, because it gives them a spectacular opportunity here to really go toe-to-toe with some of the very best in the field, as right now Cadmore will have been passed by Daniel Fritz off camera, and Fritz by comparison in PA, it's almost as if the Australian driver here after making that good recovery in race number 1, absolutely flying high after that battle with Sykes and Benny, and now the Whiskey Runners Racing driver is going all for it. Cadmore runs a bit deep there, coming on through, but he rejoins, but it's an unsettled car, and he's going to bring it back together, and that's going to enable Piggott to come through. Meanwhile, Dory going deep at Big Bend in the battle for P4, trying to go around the outside of Manners, and Manners doing everything to thwart him, and Dory trying to set up a run around the outside to inside from 3 into 4. Can't quite find it, but Phil McDougall here now trying to go for the move as we ride on board with the 83, and you can see that again, cutting the car onto the apex nice and early, trying to give himself as much momentum, but this time not able to make it fly, and as they make their way into uphill corner, well, I think the CXR Project Black driver throwing every manoeuvre in the book in terms of trying to close up. He knows it's not about the first corner where you try to go for the overtake, you've got to set up the overtake onto where's the Samposi straight, alternatively much later in the corner sequence. If it starts at turn 1, it ends on the exit of 4, and that's exactly his mindset right now, which is get close, come the end of the sequence of corners, not at the start of it, and that's where he can make his moves count, with Dory all over the back of Manners. Well, the imagination is that Dory essentially using that toe off of Manners to keep himself safe from McDougall, but in return, Manners making himself wide enough that Dory just cannot cover through. It's a bit of a stalemate here between the three, but I think McDougall right now trying to see how it plays out and engaging where he can start to get into the fold as they come through left-hander for the 8th time of asking. We're going through left into white here, but we're keeping it there cool in the meantime, and we have had a bit of a moment for Matthew Addy, who's dropped down to P7, and I believe he's under a bit of pressure now from Shane Piggott. In fact, Shane Piggott's just passed his way past Daniel Fritz for a P8. That's what we just had come up in our timing box, and well, as we see here, Dory looking for the move versus Manners. We jump for the on-board with McDougall up towards Manners now, becomes the focus of our cameraman's attention, and coming on down towards turn number 7, the DCW Racing driver here, really under huge pressure. Michael Lease and Mikey Pollard are just being allowed to run away with P3 and P2 respectively in the prime class here, as Manners really having to dig it deep versus the prime behind, taking to the inside run there down the Sampos. Even Dory switches back to the inside, Manners covers it off under braking, turns the car in there under braking as they come down, and then you can see McDougall goes up the inside of 1, can't quite make it 2 here, but Manners' poor run on the line will mean that McDougall will be compromised on quarter exit. Now Dory comes back at him, and will the 83 driver here, McDougall going all in around the outside to inside. He's seen this work, he knows he can make it work as well, and as they come through right hand and now onto No Name Straight, it's going to be too wide. It's a drag race up towards uphill bend, and when McDougall's been in once already in race 1 versus Michael Lease, it didn't work out, but will he stick it in race number 2? He's going to go for it here. Jamie Dory gives him all the space in the world and then some. They make their way out to the corner, it's still too wide as they come into turn number 6. McDougall's there on the inside, brilliant race in between them. Dory goes deep, and as he does, he collects the grass, he catches the car in time, but Dory loses out. Phil McDougall being absolutely brave and bold as you can ever be as a racing driver, moves up to P5 and does not let it go. P4 in the Prime class as well with it, and now Jamie Dory getting back in, and Matthew Addy, who had a brief moment in the sunshine there in P6, and as they come down to the braking zone at 4, Big Ben, Phil McDougall is flying out there and not showing any quarter as he comes on through the first 2 corners and up towards turns 3 and 4. And towards the end of the first half of this race, they've still got a long distance to go, and we'll speak of the distances closing. Here's your 2 leaders with Michael Lease in the background, and Adam Delmont and Mikey Pollard are getting closer to one another, as it does look as though right now Pollard encroaching within 7/10 of a second. We're hearing that Dory's had an off track. In fact, there's been a bit of a disaster for Jamie Dory. He's had a nasty whack to the wall there, coming through turn number 4, and will the car recovering. Matthew Addy as well going slowly as Cadwell goes around the outside of Addy through turn number 5. There's been an instant between the two of them, that much is certain, and will Addy and Dory bring themselves back up to speed into turn 6, and Matthew Addy backing off, and I think with wounds to the car as well, it may be a case of Matthew Addy having to come into the pit with the damage. We'll have to wait to see what he makes his way through the final corner. Does he just simply pull the car to the right? I think he is going to, and I think the wheels may be out of alignment. Whatever has happened, it's been a major night. In fact, he can't even make it into the pit lane. The brakes have gone, and for Matthew Addy, it may be all about just trying to get the car around once again, as Darren Hill's in the pit lane, and we'll believe he's had to retire the car, and Addy maybe add himself to that list shortly. But meanwhile, coming back to the battle for leaders, Lewis Benny has gone on past what is Matthew Addy for P10 in this race, and that's P10 in the Prime class. But we see Delmont here and Pollard, they're battling for the overall lead, not class lead, of course, it's the prior head of the Prime, but right now the Prime showing pro pace, if you will, as they head through 6 and down towards 7. And they've moved into the second half of the race now as they head on to lap number 12 very shortly. And well, as Delmont and Pollard here continue to follow one another on to the start for this straight. Pollard on that previous lap, he was a little bit faster this lap from Delmont at 57.553, Pollard at 57.428. It's a 10th and a couple of hundredths to boot for Mikey Pollard in his favour, and will the rest of the field lapping in the high 57s or low 58s. Nobody else is able to come close to this top 2 as they come on through left into right-hander, and as they make the way out to the tricky S sequence. Well, who is it going to become the end here? Who will be leading? As they head up towards turn at number 5, I can confirm to you that Matthew Addy is into the pit lane with the damage he picked up from that incident that occurred off camera at turn at number 4, involving him and Jamie Dory. Whether it's separate instances or not, we're not quite sure, but we do know it's both drivers having a nasty moment in the same corner, and now this battle for the race lead is closing fiercely as they come on down and on towards what will be lap number 13, and that gap is always a 10 from corner to corner over the entire 7-lap course, and now Pollard definitely in the toe zone here in terms of being able to pick up a sensational amount of speed down the San Posey straight. It's going to be 2 to 3 miles now he gains there, and that will materialise or manifest itself in the form of being able to be a bit bold under braking into Big Bend, and also now really feeling that dirty air through what is left-hander right-hander turns 3 and 4, but in return through turns 5 through to 7, if he plays his cards right, he'll be able to use that toe to close up even more. So essentially it's a domino effect. The closer you get, if you're able to manage that dirty air, you now start to gain a bigger and bigger bonus, and of course up to the point when you're about 2 attempts off the back of the car in front, that is when you start to get into that position when you have to start thinking of a move, because get too close and then you have to back the car off naturally, because of course under brake in the lead car, when they brake, well, you as the chasing car, you have to brake a little bit earlier, otherwise you will be clipping the rear of the lead car, you're going to take evasive action. But as they make their way through turn at number 7 onwards towards another lap, you can see here as we ride on board the rear bumper of Adam Delmont's car, will Pollard 3 and 8 tenths, wins 3 tenths and 8 hundredths off the back as he heads in towards the braking zone once again. But Pollard now well within the 3 to 4 tenth zone, and well, is he going to wait a little bit before he potentially looks at the move? I get the feeling he may do. He may not go for it immediately, but meanwhile, speaking of drivers who are trying to go for moves immediately, but was closed up to the back of Manners. This is for P4 overall as we've got a car off there. That's Michael Lease has taken an adventure, and as he rejoins, now this takes a new significance. They're not just battling to be on the podium, the pair of them, they're battling for the runner-up spot in the Prime class, and what is the final overall podium spot between Manners and McDougall, with Lease falling to 2 seconds behind this battle. And as they make the way upwards towards where it's turn at number 5, when McDougall has closed up quite quickly, he's got plenty of time to go. He's got another 7 laps after this one, and well, now with time in hand, we're going to have to see whether Manners can make that DCW racing machine as wide as McDougall's had the tendency to make it when he's had to be on the defensive. And I would say, given that Manners right now really is grinding the championship, McDougall's not too far off, off. Both of them here are going to give it everything. As you can see, Madul goes a bit wide, catches it just in time, and well, he's used up one of his 9 lives there. If he was a cat, I can tell you that, because that was a very heart-in-mouth moment for him in the CXR Project Black team, as he now heads into Big Ben once again. Lee's behind there as they come up through, and Michael Lee's now really starting to again put the hammer down after a mistake at Big Ben on the previous lap and try to get a bit closer here. Madul may yet have to look at his rearview mirror rather than forward, as meanwhile Mark Cadwell will find his way past Daniel Fritz, and that is Fritz off circuit there at Big Ben. He's taken the scenic route to rejoin. Well, I think he's just letting the car straight line on, so he will join what will be the entry into turn number 4, albeit the Whiskey Runners racing driver. They just gradually bring himself onto circuit, albeit almost stalling the car there. He's going to drop down a P9, having to give time back as well for corner cutting, albeit I think he's lost enough time already through that rather scenic approach to turns 3 and 4, as he makes way back onto circuit. A difficult one there after all the ground he gained, and will Mark Cadwell again find himself now up into P6 overall, P5 in the prime class, and well, you can't put the number 40 driver down. He is enjoying the racing here, and I don't think it's just about the smile on the bonnet. I think that's reflected in the cockpit, but as he makes his way onto what will be lap number 16. Meanwhile, we do look to Adam Delmont, your race leader here, as he makes his way into the final quarter of this race, and well, still Mikey Pollard with him. The gap staying at 4 attempts. In fact, it's gone up slightly, albeit now it's starting to come down. As soon as I say that, the gap is coming down. It's making me mark my words. And commentators are starting to apply as well, as they make their way through 5 and up towards 6. Well, Pollard has been in this distance for quite some time, and can he get closer? Can he go one step further and find a way to get ahead? Remember that after this race, we will see a reversal of the top 7 finishing positions of race number 2, and that's how they'll line up for the 3rd race of the day. And well, who will be your current pole sitter? It would be Jamie Dory, and well, these two, of course, are battling the 6th and 7th on that grid. The winner will take 7th place on it, and will Pollard very close down to break him into Big Ben, but it's Delmont who's able to maintain that gap over the rest of the lap distance, albeit I say that goes a bit deep there as they come through turn number 2, and as we jump on board here with the chasing car of Pollard, well, staying close has been his forte, but now it does seem as though Delmont may have just taken a bit too much out of the car in running such a high level of pace early on, and perhaps Pollard has just been protecting the car, trying to give himself a bit more tyre life, so that way on the last couple of laps he can really start to push for the move. But as they come uphill through 5 and in towards downhill at 7, they'll gradually make their way through 6 first, of course. Well, Delmont there just carrying enough speed as he comes to the right-hander, and now down the hill they go, but again almost running a bit deep there, so I think there might be some sense to the logic here that Pollard has been saving the tyres in the mid-portion of the race and is now pushing, gets a really good run off at turn 7. This is going to be 2 attempts at the timing line. It could be an opportunity. He's going to have to go very late. Delmont covers him off, moves to the inside. Pollard looks around the outside under braking, but he locks up there under braking and has to carry the car forward. A small encroachment to the grass there, but it's not enough in the end to take him wide, but Pollard feels the pain. The fact he now drops to 1.3 attempts back, and in fact 1.3 seconds back we should say, and we're getting our units right here. Pollard right now is going to have to make it all up again in the space of 4 laps, and that is going to be a tall ask. Meanwhile, Piggott versus Dory as they make the way into Big Ben. Will Piggott up the inside. Dory, I don't think having a response after going off circuit at turn 7 on the previous lap, as we looked at our commentary booth window to see what was going on, and well, that explains how Piggott was able to get alongside early on the straight. And right now Dory trying to push back. Remember, this P7 is going to be your reverse grip pole for race number 3, is where to understand it. So both of these drivers now will really dig in to try and fight for this position. With Cadwell, where he'll be happy just to run away in P6 at this point, and knowing that he's going to be on the front row of the grid, and he'll have an opportunity to potentially take what will be a prime podium for the first time in his participation in this series. But as they make the way down towards turn number 6 here, Piggott versus Dory, we couldn't ask for a closer pair of drivers, and Phil McDougall and Ian Manners have closed up again, with the fact they've got Michael Lease also just on the back of them. So it's all kicking off between them as they make the way around. And in fact, as we do look to Phil McDougall here, well, right now under more pressure from Leeson than the pressure he's enacting on to the back of Manners. So this could go either way between the trios. They come out of Big Ben in towards turns 3 and 4. They roll, and as they do, well, McDougall here still trying to keep his cool as he comes on through turn number 4. And I think he's now trying to just find the flow that's going to be enough to enable him to look forward towards Manners rather than look rearward towards Lease. Of course, that's the thing. When you're in at these packs, you always want to try and look forward. You don't want to look backwards, because if you start looking backwards, you naturally lose time on the driver that's in front of you, and well, it is a painful place to be. Meanwhile, for Lees, he can just continue to push this as hard as he possibly can, as meanwhile we are hearing that Lewis Benny has moved up to P9 overall after another mistake from Daniel Fritz at turns 1 and 2. But meanwhile here, as we do see the battle for what is P3 make its way onto the penultimate lap. Well, they're all at line astern as they head down the Samposi straight, but Menas now defends as they come into Big Ben, and McDougal's going to look around the outside. Michael Lee's still waiting there behind them as they come through the first apex into the turn 2 apex they go, and Menas there just literally parking the car on apex and saying, no, I'm not giving in here, and well, it's going to force the ball to Constantina as we ride on board and look back from the rear bumper of Menas' car. Now, where can McDougal find it? Can it be through turn number 5? I think that's where he'll set the move up in terms of building the momentum, and he's got to carry it all the way through and in towards the Samposi straight on the final lap. You see Lisa again just taking a little bit of a peek, but of course McDougal and Lisa very well initiated with one another now. I was what happened in race number 1, and I don't think they'll want to try and make a repeat of it in the second race of the day, but again you can see turning into turn number 6, Menas just under that pressure and now starting to feel it ever more as the leaders have gone on to the final lap. They're separated by quite the margin as meanwhile running through the right hander we're hearing that Mark Cadmore's lost out versus one is Bigger and Dory, but meanwhile it's going to be a run down the start for the straight here onto the final lap. It's going to be McDougal looking around the outside, it's going to be Menas on the inside. This is a P3 overall, P2 in the prime class as they come on for it's too wide through Big Bend. Will it be the same on corner exit here? I think it is. McDougal's still there on the right. Your picture of the inside into left-hander. Meanwhile, Menas there trying to close the door. He can't do it, but he will have the inside into right-hander if things stay as they are. Lisa over the back of the pair, and he looks to make it 3 wide. He can't as the door starts to shut. But as they come through right-hander, 2 wide on exit. McDougal goes a little bit deep there. I think there's a small bit of contact, and it may just give Lisa the opportunity. Now Lisa looking for the move of return as they come into uphill at right of turn number 5. He can't quite find it, but meanwhile we have to look away from them, ladies and gents, because here's your race leader, and well, it's been a faultless race from lights out to checker flag, and Adam Delmont for NXTGEN Racing makes it 2 out of 2, with Mikey Pollard taking the pram win at P2. But what about Menas, Lisa and McDougal? They come through the final corner. Menas holds the lead of this group. It's going to be a drag race to the line. It's only a 10th if that as they exit the corner, and well, Menas holds the centre of the road. He's going to make Lisa McDougal battle hard, and in the end Menas takes the final spot on the overall podium. Michael Lee's P4, Phil McDougal P5, a brilliant race. Shane Big at P6 ahead of Jamie Dory P7, and Jamie Dory will be your reverse grid pole sitter for the final race of the day. Mark Canmore P8 there, and then it will be Lewis Benny with Wes Daniel Fritz all over his back as they make the way around. Matthew Addy ahead of them, P12 a lap down, but he'll finish there the last of the runners. Benny and Fritz both getting it wrong, and well, Benny's trying to bring it under control as he heads to the line. Oh goodness me, and I think that's going to be Fritz across the line on the grass there, and well, Daniel Fritz is classified as P9 just ahead of Benny. Well, you could not make that up as the Mark Sykes finishes P11 there, and Addy a last finisher a lap down as we mentioned only moments ago. But what an end to this race, it has to be said, and well, what a defense from Ian Menas of DCW Racing, holding off Lisa McDougal all the way for the last 3 to 4 laps, and the pressure was absolutely relentless. But I can tell you one thing, he did not give in to the pressure and just kept his calm and carried on. And will now, will he be able to make his way past both Lisa McDougal in the final race of the day? Given the reversal of the top 7 positions, we'll see him having to battle his way on through. Well, we'll have to see. But as we get ready for that race, let's take you through the results of race number 2, subject to any stewards' inquiries. After another 21 laps of racing at Lime Rock Park Classic, Adam Delmont making it 2 wins out of 2 for NXTGEN Racing by 1.4 seconds over the DCW Racing driver of Mikey Pollard. Delmont was under pressure, but Pollard locking up into turn number 1 with only 3 laps to go saw him lose out and in the end have to settle for P2, but still the pro winner ahead of the prime winner, and both deserved winners in their classes. Following up on the final step of the overall podium, the fellow DCW Racing driver of Ian Menas means a DCW Racing 2-3 on that overall podium, and also a 1-2 in the prime class, with Menas fend off Michael Leese and Phil McDougal to the line. With the NXTGEN Racing and 6, our Project Black drives home to dig a little bit deeper in race number 3, it would seem, in order to be able to usurp Menas. P6 for Shane Piggott, runner-up in the pro class for Ace of Spades Racing, with an advantage of what was 4 attempts over line ahead of Jamie Dory for NXTGEN Racing, who rounded off the pro at podium. And then Mark Cadmore, P8, they're just missing out on being part of the top 7 reverse grid for today, but still, he'll be happy with another P5 finish in the prime class, and indeed ahead of Daniel Fritz Whiskey Runners Racing, who is classified as ahead of Lewis Benny, despite finishing off track at the very end And still, both drivers getting it wrong out the final corner, but Daniel Fritz finding a way to get to the line first before it all ended in disaster. The Whiskey Runner Racing just pipping Lewis Benny to the post for Lewis Racing, and then Best the Rest in P11 and Mark Sykes there for Next Gen Racing. And our final finisher, not on the lead lap, but a lap down, Next Gen Racing's Matthew Addy, with the one retirement of Darren Hills for Ace of Spades Racing, retiring after 2 laps turned. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that marks our second race of the day, and we've got one more to go here. Sprint race number 3 is coming up shortly in approximately 5 to 6 minutes time. We'll be back for the pre-show. It's going to be another 21 laps with a partial reverse grid, and well, could we see some late drama here today in the state of Connecticut? I think we could. Don't go anywhere, you won't want to miss it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, we are back then for our third and final race of the day here at Lime Rock Park in the US of A. And what a brilliant first two races we have had. In 21 laps in both races, we've seen plenty of action up and down the field, but we've seen one rivalry that hasn't quite come to its ultimate fruition yet, and that is the battle between the two class leaders. In the Pro class, Adam Delmont, and in the Prime class, Mikey Pollard, of course. Both drivers pushing one another hard. In race number one, it was Delmont who got ahead off the line and made the move count into turn number one. And meanwhile, in race number two, the pressure was building from Mikey Pollard, but in the end, it was a small mistake from him. A lock up into turn number one with 3 laps to go that cost him the opportunity to try and take the fight to Delmont to the line. But as they get ready to go one more time, and we do look to Pollard in particular here as he heads on around, well, now he's going to have an opportunity to redeem himself by starting slightly ahead of Delmont, as we're to understand it, with a top 7 reverse grid, and that will mean that he's going to be starting P6 versus, of course, Delmont's P7, and will Kenny hold on to that P6 and then make his way through the field to make it an overall win. Of course, a number of drivers will be starting a bit further ahead of them, including Ian Manners, who will start P5, and will the DCW Racing driver will try and work with his teammate. Of course, there's no teams championship, but at the same time, if you're part of teams, you are allowed to work together when racing, and both of them will be thinking about how best they can work together in order to carve their way through the field and also make sure they maintain the leading positions in class before they battle one another to the win at the finish. As Manners makes his way through right-hand return at number 4 and up towards turn at 5. We do look to Adam Delmont coming on around here, and the next-gen racing driver get himself comfortably set for the final day. And well, how can he get on in this third race? That's going to be the change that'll be on his mind right now, with under a minute to go before we head to the grid for race 3 of 3. And well, we've also seen some standout performances down the field, including good recoveries from Daniel Fritz in the Whiskey Runners Racing Machine, and also Mark Cadwell bringing on home 2 top 5 finishes in the Prime class, and also Mark Sykes trying to push his way into the top 10 in both races, despite not quite being on the pace. And whatever you go, there's been some brilliant battling as well. And well, will we see even more of that in the third race? I think my gut feeling says yes, we will. And now we are just waiting for that final transition. But perhaps one of the drivers who's been struggling a little bit here at Lime Rock Park, Jamie Dorey, he's had a lot of speed, but he's also had a degree of inconsistency come with that speed, particularly turn 7, that's called about time and time again. And will can the number 13 driver prove that it's perhaps been bad luck in the first 2 races and not make any further mistakes? Well, the checker flag is out on this final practice session, and now it's time to tell as we make our way to the grid for race number 3. But as our drivers make their way onto the grid, we'll very shortly see them start to take their positions, and we'll be able to see how they all line up, of course, because we can't do a grid walkthrough, but what we can do is see them all positioning. In fact, I do believe we may have an extended reverse grid here, so I think we've actually gone for the full grid reversal rather than a partial. Well, that wasn't quite in our notes, but still, the fact that we're going for a full reverse grid, given there's only 13 cars, is definitely going to mix things up, and well, that will mean that Adam Delmont will be starting right at the back of the field. And well, for him and the DCW Racing drivers, they are going to have to come through the field at a rapid rate of knots, but it is going to be a full reverse grid in the end. And as Matthew Addy gets set to go racing, he'll be starting from what is pole position with Mark Sykes there behind him and alongside on the front row. Then it's going to be Lewis Benny who'll be starting on the second row in P3, joined by Daniel Fritz, and behind the pair there it will be Mark Cadwell, followed up by what is Jamie Dorey. But the grid is set, ladies and gentlemen, and we await the lights. It's lights out and away we go for the final race of the day. Mark Sykes gets a slow launch off the line, and he nails the start by comparison. And as they make their way down towards Big Bend at turn 1, where it's going to be a short run for Addy, he'll feel safe. Meanwhile, Daniel Fritz immediately going on the charge here. He's not going to give way as he takes P2. Sykes going to have a deeper. Benny trying to cut to the inside as they come through 2 heading towards 3. Contact between the two of them. They both go off circuit, and as they do, well, the rest of the field now picks up places as a result. You can see Dorey going around the outside to inside the field, but Dougal through left-hander into right at turns 3 and 4. Cadwell holds the place ahead. Meanwhile, Michael Lee's also trying to come through as Dory now slots in front, and Lee's here trying to go early versus McDougall, but in the end I think he's going to have to play the game with discretion. The better part of Valor as they come through turn 5 for uphill corner. McDougall around the outside there. Dory giving them the space as they power their way down the back straight and out towards turn number 6. Still too wide into the corner, but there's no way through for Lees at the moment. If he finds a way on the inside of McDougall, he ends up having to back off there for Dory as they come down through downhill at 7. Well, now it's going to be McDougall goes very deep, and I think it's only going to go one way. McDougall's going to lose the place. In fact, he cuts his way into the pit lane, so I think he's been falling foul, perhaps a jump start, but as I try to make the way across the line. Meanwhile, in the battle for P2, Fritz under pressure on Piggott, and will the Probe driver may just let the Probe go, given the fact his focus will be more on Cadwell, who's coming up behind and trying to close quickly. But Piggott up into P2, and meanwhile behind it's not stopping yet with Delmont now battling harder with at least the two next-gen racing drivers looking to exchange places here, and will at least they may be friends off circuit. I can tell you right now they're not friends on circuit as they come through turn number 4 and down towards 5 they go, and we ride aboard and look back here from the rear of Delmont's car, and you see the DCW racing train of where's their Pollard and Manners trying to go hunting as well, albeit Delmont's got to jump on the pair of them, and that's an important part of his strategy here in this final race of the day as they make the way on through and down towards turn number 6 they go, but as they clear the right hander and onwards towards turn number 7. We're on lap number 2 at 21, and as they power their way on through towards lap number 3 very shortly, well, things calm down for a brief moment. But after what is the opening laps of this race, it's Matthew Addy who leads by what is 1.7 seconds over Shane Piggott in P2, Daniel Fritz P3 ahead of Mark Cadwell P4, and then we do have Jamie Dory P5 ahead of Michael Lees as Daniel Fritz goes wide, and he's going to drop a long way off the field as we see him there in the rear of the picture. Well, turns 1 and 2 catching Fritz out once again, but Cadwell now up into P3, Jamie Dory P4 ahead of Michael Lees P5, Adam Delmont P6 ahead of Mikey Pollard, followed by Ian Manners P7, and in fact P8 there's Daniel Fritz rejoins P9, albeit taking the scenic route to rejoin. And then we do have 3 cars in the pit lane. That's Phil McDougall, who's had to retire the car. We've also got Mark Sykes, who's actually rejoined 2 laps down, and in fact he's in P10 now, but Phil McDougall P11 and Lewis Benny P12. Meanwhile, Pollard versus Delmont and also Lees, and Pollard up the inside there. Oh, what is that? Lees going into turn number 6, and now the DCW racing driver trying to make even more headway. We're coming through turn number 7 and on to the start-finish straight they go. We'll push it as much as they can for now, but we have got a bit of a reduced field here, down to 10 cars up to 14 started in race 1. I think technical issues for Wes Benny and for McDougall, they may have identified something on the car when he did come into the pits, so therefore now we have 9 runners on the lead lap, 2 laps down the forward Sykes, but he's staying in it to win it, understandably so. But as they come through the left into right combo turns 3 and 4, with this mid-pack right now being already bunched up by Jamie Dory, and Dory just not able to find any pace coming out of turn number 4 as he makes his way up towards 5 in the long charge he goes. Well, as they make the way down No Name straight and in towards the uphill right-hander, it's going to be Delmont who's looking to try and push the tempo as soon as possible. The 2 next-gen racing drivers here, well, the great rivals on and off the circuit, and as we ride on board here, we're Delmont the Briton all over the back, but too close for comfort then as to back it off slightly, going through 6 into 7. Now through the right-hander he goes, and up towards turn at number 1 he charges, and as he does, we're building up the speed here once more. But of course for Delmont, closing is one thing, passing is another thing in its entirety. Now will be sweet to the inside, he's going to go for it late, he's trying to outwit Dory, he's trying to get Dory to react at short notice, and will Delmont here showing signs that he's not afraid to try and throw one up the inside, or at least that's what he's trying to signal through to Dory, as he really runs it as wide as possible on the exit at 2. But interesting, notice the body language of Dory's car under braking, he just does not have the stability that Delmont seems to have on that rotation under braking, and he goes wide there out of 4. Now Dory will rejoin, but he'll be on the outside. Delmont thinks about it, can't quite the move occurring to turn number 5 through uphill corner, but it's not there where he wants to go, it's here he wants to try and carry the speed, but again runs a bit wide there himself. Delmont really chomping at the bit to make progress, and Pollard only 2 tenths behind, so Delmont's got to get this done because Pollard's not going to wait forever in order to try and make this move, because they both want the overall win here. They don't want to be finishing outside the podium places. Cadwell's only 1 second up the road, and he is gradually being closed up to by Dory, and I think right now Cadwell may be banking on Dory playing defensive. And as they head across line, Michael Lee sets the fastest lap of the race A 56.7 at 6.9 on the 5th lap turn. As they go to lap number 6, will things settle for now. Meanwhile, at the front of the field, this is Addy versus Piggott. Piggott up the inside into left-hander, and as they come through into right-hander very shortly, Addy being made to go deep, and Piggott through inside to outside, and he's going the long way around the houses. But to be fair to Piggott, credit to him, the number 27 driver Ace of Spades has made it count. Meanwhile, further behind, Dory versus Delmont again, and Dory goes deep. This time, Delmont does have the overspeed into uphill bend. He'll go on in, and Dory leaves the door open there. He brings it back onto the circuit using the runoff strip, and it's going to be Pollard now. He also feels that he can have a shot at this as they come into turn 6. They come off the corner, near contact there between the two of them, but great racing between them, showing just enough width for one another. They come through the right hand return number 7, and Will Pollard right now can't quite find a way past Dory. And well, I think Del will be hoping that Dory's able to act as a little bit of a rolling roadblock for a bit longer as they make their way down San Posey and into Big Bend. But heading on to the brakes here, Ian Manners also at the back of this group, and Manners trying to find a way past Lees, and it is currently what is a 5-way fight for P4. In fact, now P3 falling into the equation as Mark Cadmore will the privateer. I think he would have been happy to know he was in P3 overall, but I don't think it's going to be long here before he finds himself having to dig deep versus Delmont, and we'll have Delmont behind you this early on in the race. I think for Cadmore, he knows that his time might be numbered, but then again, never say never. Cadmore will do everything he can to try and hold on. There's a little bit of a mistake there coming into turn number 5, just running a bit deep onto the entry curb, and as he comes out of the corner, 2 wheels on the grass here, he's going to give all the space in the world to Delmont to go up the inside of turn number 6, and I think Cadwell there just being pressured into a mistake, and now the taps will open here in terms of the moves as they flood the way out the inside. It's going to be Dory first, it's going to be Pollard, and Pollard there with a very brave move. They're too wide off the corner, it's like Noah's Ark here, 2 by 2, hurrah, hurrah, they go down the San Posey straight, and it's going to be 3 wide. Lees looks in the middle, it's going to be Pollard on the inside, Cadmore on the outside on the braking. They make contact, and Lees gets tapped there, and Lees goes straight on just underneath our cameraman there, and it's a disaster for Michael Lees. Will go 3 wide. There was always going to be very tense, but in the end Pollard does get on through. Lees squeezed between Pollard and Cadmore, and Manners has also found his way past, but it was very close. So well, you can understand why there's contact, but I don't think Lees will be too understanding at this point. I think he'll be thin as though he's just been robbed of an opportunity to go hunting for the win of this race. But meanwhile, Pollard here carrying on with some slight damage to the car, and as he makes his way through turn 5 and in towards turn 6 and 7, it's going to calm down for a brief moment, albeit for how long before he tries to reignite the fight with Dory. That will be the question, and also then it's going to be Delmont up the road, and Pollard will be looking at for a final shot at him as they make the way out of downhill and on towards another lap. Meanwhile, from them looking all the way up to your race leader, it will Shane Piggott may have found his way past Matthew Addy. Addy's not letting him out of his sights as they come through Big Bend for the 9th time of asking, and will can Piggott break away, or is this a sign right now? He's perhaps pushed a little bit too hard too soon, for as he comes on through left-hander into right, will the 27 car for Ace of Spades Racing keeping his head down, but it does look as though the field is closing, and the rate at which it's closing is quite fast. 3 attempts gained by Adam Delmont on that previous lap. You can see Delmont in the pictures. Meanwhile, Dory again really struggling through turn number 4, and Pollard just simply swings on through. He just goes up the inside and says, okay, thank you. I think Dory just not comfortable with the way the cars transition off the apex to turn number 4, and as they come into turn 6, well, Pollard's up into P4 overall. Dory's there right behind them as they both use a lot of track width there, and even more so use of the grass in order to take the speed. And as they come out to turn number 7, well, they'll take track limit penalties up to a point, and of course they may have a drive-through penalty in the cars as they carry on that way. But Pollard here defending on the inside. He knows that Dory will try and come back him into Big Bend, but in the end Dory being made to go all the way around. It is a slight camber to the corner, so you can hold an outside line, but Dory not able to stay too wide all the way through it, and Pollard will cement this position. As they come out of left-hander into right-hander now, again, Dory just so fragile in terms of pace compared to his peers going through this corner, and I think the car just been scooped wide, perhaps taking a bit too much apex curb on his runs on through, and as they make the way down towards turn number 5, things will settle down between them now. We've still got plenty of racing to come, particularly with Delmont trying to close up versus Addy in the battle versus Pitt for P2, and then what will be versus Shane Piggott for the lead, as Mark Cadmore still staying close to Ian Manners. Manners may have gotten past Cadmore recently, but there's no sign of number 40 driver giving up here. here. He's trying to stay in this hunt. He wants to be part of the story for a potential podium in the Pro-Am class in the top 5 overall. But as they make their way down towards turn number 1, heading on to lap number 11, we head into the second half of this race. Daniel Fritz, meanwhile, a bit further back in P8, with a 7-second advantage over with Michael Lees. And Lees right now the fastest man on the circuit if you exclude Adam Delmont. Absolutely ripping up the asphalt here as the NXTGEN Racing driver. Previous lap, what was a 56.9 now goes to what is a 57.7 and will absolutely try. In fact, 57.3, we should correct ourselves. Meanwhile, Matthew Addy, we look up into P2. Well, the NXTGEN Racing driver here under that pressure from Delmont, and now he's got to make a decision. Does he fight this hard, or does he simply let it go and focus on conserving time to Mikey Pollard? And Pollard, of course, in P4, the runner-up spot currently for the Pro-Am class versus Addy. And if I was Addy right now and as a betting man, I would bet I need to let this one go for the simple reason that if I fight this too hard, I could be holding on to the lead of a battle for P2 in the overall classification. But what's worth more, a win in the Pro-Am class, alternatively a potential loss of both places, and indeed what could be a fall to the bottom of the podium in the Pro-Am class come the end of it. Boy, I think he's going all in here as they make the way through left-hander and up towards right-hander. Of course, that's the racer within him. He won't want to give in. And there you can see already Delmont now starting to try and set up a move. Try and look around the outside to cut back to the inside out of 4. And will already get the better out of the corner. I think Addy may just let this go by default. I think he was putting up a defense until Delmont started to set up the move. And in the end, Addy has released himself from the turmoil, and now it's going to be down into turn number 6. The gap to Pollard is 1.2 seconds, and that gap is coming down. Pollard had a really good run off of turn number 5, and as they head it towards turn 7 through downhill corner they go. Now it's going to be Pollard's turn to try and look to hunt down Addy, albeit if Addy can stay in the toe of Delmont and keep it close. We see Dory there again running very wide out of turn number 7. Well, it could be Addy's to hold on to here, given the fact that Pollard will not have the toe that Addy has available to him. Then on to another lap, on to lap number 13. They make the way on through Big Ben Corner and behind Dory right now, trying to stay with the top 4, albeit if he continues mistakes like that coming out to turn number 7, he will find himself falling away. Ian Manners, meanwhile, has fallen off of the top 5. Gap now down to, we're up to what is 2.6 seconds, with Mark Cadwell staying with him. And it seems as though Manners, whether there's some damage on the car that we don't know about, or whether Manners has got an issue, it just feels as though Manners not quite on the pace again here in this race compared to the first 2 races of the day. We are showing top 3 pace all the way through, and Cadwell conversely now really coming alive as he makes his way out to turn number 5 in towards 6 and 7 and rolling through the right as he comes on down towards turn 7 now. And well, if he can stay there, Cadwell may have an opportunity later on. But meanwhile, we look from then to Shane Piggott, your race leader. Piggott, to be fair, ever since taking the lead of this race off in Matthew Addy, he has not shown any mistakes so far. Clipping the apex curve there aggressively into Big Ben Corner, but still doing everything in his power here to try and keep that gap to Adam Delmont. And Delmont to make it 3 wins out of 3 overall in the Pro class here today to really give himself an opportunity to take that championship lead off of Chris Daines. But as they come out of turn 4 and down at the no-name back straight they go, well, the gap stays at 8 tenths currently, and it's Piggott pushing hard enough here in terms of is he balancing at that tyre management versus pace. Well, we've got to assume he is, but as he loses 2 tenths, they go through turn number 5. Well, now the gap is going the wrong way. It's coming down very quickly, and for Delmont, a brilliant run off of the corner and going into turn number 7 and through the right-hander they go. Well, there's the weakness for you in terms of where Piggott is looking vulnerable. Well, with the last lap, Delmont and Piggott match one over for lap time, but I think this time you're going to see a noticeable difference as Piggott comes to timeline at 57.590, Delmont at 57.308. It's almost 3 tenths gain there for Delmont. And now that battle is looking ever closer. But meanwhile, Matthew Addy there in P3 still keeping Mikey Pollard at bay. But Pollard has halved that gap in the space of 2 laps to now 6 tenths. And as he comes on through in the left into right-hander sequence, I think Pollard here now starting to feel an itch to scratch, which is bringing on home that class win. As Addy goes a bit wide in the rear left tyre as he tries to get the power down, just slides loose. A bit of oversteer corner exit. And now for the Britain, that's going to release Pollard immediately. It's a small mistake. And we can understand why it's happened. He's been pushing so hard as Matthew Addy. He's rejoined immediately behind Pollard. Can he find a way to put the pressure on, or will it be Pollard's race now to run away with as they make the way down the hill? Will we ride on board here with the Briton in the 57 car of Matthew Addy as he heads out to the final corner. You can see that both Pollard and Addy pushing hard once more as they make their way down the start finish straight. It's going to be 2.5 tenths between them as they head into the Big Bend braking zone. And well, coming on through here, Addy doing everything he can to close up. Beautiful line now for the trail brake, collecting all of the apex curve and closing that gap up. But the problem is he gets as close as 2 tenths, and this is your lot in terms of the fact you can't really get any closer. Now you're in the distance. Well, really, you're getting close enough to tap the rear bumper of the car in front, and you have to back it off and look for the move. But Addy coming out to turn number 4. Well, this time, no mistake for him, but I think a little bit semi-conscious of the pitfalls of the right-hander as he comes into uphill. Now as they make their way on through it, meanwhile we look from them to the race leaders, and this is Piggott versus Delmont as they come through turn number 6. We ride on board the rear bumper of your race leader, Ace of Spades Racing 27 driver, who's trying to make it a win here today to pick up his first win overall in the Pro Class this season, versus Delmont, who's trying to make it 3 wins out of 3 and 3 wins out of 3 in both categories. As they power their way down towards turn number 1 this time, it's going to be no move there. But meanwhile, for it's Pollard, he's having to defend versus Addy. Addy looking around the outside. Pollard runs it a little bit deep. Addy's still there, albeit this is going to bring Dory into the mix, and Addy having to fall back into line, albeit as they come into left-hand. You can see that Addy trying to make the switchback start as he comes through left into right, can't find it, and Pollard just bleeding the pace out this race as the leader's now 2.5 seconds clear and gaining ground. But Pollard there goes deep. He runs 2 wheels beyond the exit curve, and as he does, Addy's going to have an opportunity. Has he got enough momentum here up into uphill corner? I don't think he has. As they come off the corner, you can see Dory there slotting in behind, but Dory trying to take a bit of a peek there into turn 6, can't quite find it, and Dory right now I think frustrated at the lack of pace of the 2 prime drivers in front of him and the pro driver 9. And the battle for the pro leaders just disappearing off up the road in P1 and P2 overall as they come towards the end of lap 17. 4 more laps remain as they head to the timeline. And what is this battle for P3 takes a brief breather at the very front. It's still a Delmont all over the back of Shane Piggott, but Piggott doing everything in his power to hold on as they make their way through Big Bend again and up towards the left into right sequence. But coming on out, it's the battles inside the top 5 that are really right now in their full maturity. Elsewhere, things have calmed down outside the top 5, so we'll stay looking at these 2 battles to the very end of the race here today in the final race of the 3 at Lime Rock Park in Connecticut in the US of A. And as they head up towards uphill corner, meanwhile Jamie Dory now all over the back of Addy. Addy having to defend more than he can attack, and Dory now looking for that opportunity as we jump aboard with the 13 car and getting the better run out of uphill, albeit that Addy having a little bit of a mistake at corner X, had to catch the car before it went wayward, and off at turn 6 Dory Hill look for the move surely. He thinks about it, but again it's a short run downhill, and we'll of course go 2-1 into downhill corner. It is tantamount to causing both of you to fall off the pace. Addy brings it to the middle and onto the racing line once again. Dory staying right there in the toe. He's thinking about it. The door's open, but he can't quite find it on the brakes. He goes all in. It's a small tap to the rear of Addy's car, but Addy there defends hard, keeps the car pointed. Dory trying to get into that of Addy. As Addy goes a bit deep, Dory cuts him back on the inside on the exit at 2, but now looks to the outside, a left-hander at 3. And as they go on through, well, Dory here already trying to do everything in the little taps, the little nudges, the little cutback manoeuvres, all the mind games as well. Gets a better run off the corner, but Addy squeezes him, but it's not enough. And Dory now has got the momentum, but will Addy be able to pick it up in the latter half of the gearbox? I don't think so. As Dory on the inside into uphill corner, Addy tries to cut it back as they make the way on through. But I think this is only going one way, and that is Jamie Dory takes P4 as they go into turn number 6, and will Addy falls back to P5 as now he will have Ian Manners approximately 2 seconds back, albeit Manners not close enough to get involved in it, but Jamie Dory making late ground. Meanwhile, we look from then to Shane Piggott versus Adam Delmont. It goes onto the penultimate lap, lap 20 of 21, and Piggott is still holding on. And as they come through Big Bend this time, I think Delmont's saving it all for the final lap. I think he's been doing all the analysis and knowing where he can make that move count. As we ride on board the rear bump here of the number 27 old race leader, with Adam Delmont there looking ever more menacing as the grille of the Renault Clio 5th generation machine makes its way behind through turn number 4 and up towards turn number 5 quickly. But as they power the way on through here, we can see right now Delmont just following in the wheel tracks of his rival, looking for every little moment, looking for every mistake, for every slight instance of a chink in the armour of Pigot's car, but as they make the way through turn number 6, Pigot has been absolutely flawless so far, and as they come down through turn number 7, it's one more lap to go as they charge into the San Posey straight for the penultimate time, the full length of it. Delmont makes a mistake, that's going to keep Pigot safe come the run into turn number 1, but building their way all the way towards the braking zone here. Well, right now Pigot can't afford to become complacent, he can't think about being safe, all he can do is run his racing line. Delmont goes a bit deep there again, carried too much speed through turn number 2. It looks though Delmont maybe have taken too much out of the car over the last couple of laps in trying to bring this gap down, and as they come through left-hander into right, the gap stays at 4 attempts through the right-hander of 4, on towards the back straight of No Name they go. And ending up towards what is the uphill corner now. It's 3 tenths of closing. Pigot's had a really poor run coming out of 4. Can he maintain the momentum? No, it's a poor run through 5. And it's going to be Delmont all over the back of Pigot in towards turn number 6. The gap is only a tenth here, but there's no real way through. All Pigot needs to do is hold his line. He doesn't need to do anything special with coming through turn number 7. He's just got to be smart about this. And as they come through the final corner, it's going to be a drag race to the finish line. Who's it going to be? Will it be Shane Pigot who will take his first win, or will it be Delmont who makes it 3 in a row? The checker flag backwards, and it will be Shane Pigot who takes his first win of the season for Ace of Spades Racing in class and overall, and Adam Delmont P2. Mikey Pollard makes it another win in the prime class, P3 overall this time for DCW Racing, and Jamie Dorey who rounds off the pro podium, Matthew Addy P5 there, and then it will be Ian Manners who rounds off the prime podium of Pollard, Addy and Manners, and a Mark Cadwell P7, Daniel Fritz P8 there as he comes to line, and then it will be Michael Lease, the last of our finishers on the lead lap as he comes on through to take P9 there in what has been a tough race for Next Gen Racing driver. And they're all your lead lap finishers, but a lap down as he comes through the final corner. He hasn't given up. He's been in it to win it all the way from the very start of this race, despite what happened on the open laps. Mark Sykes will be your final finisher. P10, a lap down there for Next Gen Racing with the 2 retirements of Phil McDougall and Lewis Benny. But congratulations to all our drivers, and well, to Shane Pigot in particular. A special day for him today. The Ace of Spades Racing driver making it his first win of the season overall and in the pro class. And with that, of course, a special moment for him, and one he's not going to forget. Hold off one of the fastest drivers on the grid, indeed perhaps the fastest driver currently in terms of how the championship is going. And well, for Mikey Pollard as well, 3 wins on the bounce in the prime class, and this championship campaign very much live for the DCW Racing driver, and his teammate of Ian Manners will definitely now be conscious of what is potentially coming come the next half of the season. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries. And as we can see in the end, Shane Pigot taking the win for Ace of Spades Racing in race 3 of 3 here today in round 4 of the front wheel drive Friday Series Clio Cup hosted by Next Gen Racing, taking the win over Adam Delmont for Next Gen Racing by 1/10 of that at the finish line. DCW Racing's Mikey Pollard round off the overall podium there with the win in the prime class ahead of Jamie Dorey, P4 for the Next Gen Racing driver, and with that wrapping up the prime podium consisting of Pigot, Delmont and Dorey. Matthew Addy P5 there, picking up a top 5 finish. It's been some time since we've seen him in the overall top 5, but the Next Gen Racing driver there holding off Ian Manners to the finish line, and that rounds off your prime podium of Pollard, Addy and Manners, with the DCW Racing driver being followed up by Mark Cadwell P7, and a great day for the privateer, bringing on home top 10 results all the way, and indeed top 5s in the prime class in every single race. Daniel Fritz P8 for Whiskey Runners Racing, again having to recover after a difficult start with turns 1 and 2, really catching him out today, and then Michael Lease and Mark Sykes for Next Gen Racing wrapping up the top 10, with Michael Lease being the last finisher on the lead lap in P9 and Mark Sykes finishing a lap down in P10. Best of the rest, Lewis Benny, albeit he'll be classified for Lewis Racing as they did not finish, as we did not quite complete even a single lap, and the same for Phil McDougall there, the CXR Project Black driver. He'll be classified as a DNF due to the fact he did not complete half the race distance. But commiserations for them, and congratulations for our podium finishers and our winners as well. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that marks the conclusion of our final race of the day. But it's not quite over yet. We do have the possibility of some post-round interviews coming up with our drivers who participated in the race at Lime Rock Park. We'll be back in approximately 10 minutes for those post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere. You won't want to miss them. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, due to unavailability, we have not got any drivers available for post-round interview today. But still, whilst we may not have interviews, we do need to give a big round of applause for all of our drivers with their brilliant driving from start to finish at Lime Rock Park, the classic circuit, giving us an ultimate treat in vintage racing in the United States of America, with the fact that the old asphalt showing that our drivers are able to handle their Clio Cup cars at high speeds from corner to corner and battle hard from left into right. And well, with that, of course, they've all earned a deserved break going to the mid-season break, and we do hope to catch up with a number of our drivers come the conclusion of round number 5. But still, no interviews today, and with that, that means we do now head into it's time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show and you want to know more about the Next Gen racing community, perhaps you're sat there right now thinking, well, if there's a mid-season break and, well, we have an opportunity to come back in 2 weeks' time, why can I not be on the grid in the Clio Cup? Well, we'd love to have even more out of you on the grid there in the series, and well, if you do want to know more about the front-wheel drive Fridays Clio Cup series, indeed any of our other series that are ongoing at Next Gen Racing, where you can firstly check out our official website, and that's at www.nextgenracing.co.uk, and as the website will appear on screen very shortly for you. Of course, this website being the home of clean and fair sim racing for all, because here at Next Gen Racing we've been hosting leagues for over 16 and a half years on PC and a variety of consoles, and we have gone from strength to strength in our lifespan. Currently running a multitude of series, including the front wheel drive Fridays that you've been watching today, the fixed formula, or the Formula Fix, we should say, the Formula Fixed Formula Ford FF1600 series at iRacing, and also we do have, of course, the legendary NXTGEN Season 3 currently underway, and we've got 2 more series coming up in the summer, kicking off in the latter half of June, which is both the GT3 Championship and the Proto GT3 Championship. They're both coming back in full force. We've got plenty more racing to come, and we'd love to have you out on the grid. All these series in iRacing, but also keep an eye on the fact we will be looking at bringing some more series and a sense, of course, of competizione in the near future, so plenty to look forward to, and you can find out all about that and more on our website. But perhaps you don't want to go to our website, and perhaps you want to follow us on social media instead, well, you can alternatively follow us on Facebook, and that's at www.facebook.com/groups/Next Gen Racing, and we're following us on there. You can find out all the details about us once again, like on our website, including upcoming series and broadcasts, but also you can find out a little bit more about us in terms of what we do, not just on the virtual circuit, but also on the real circuit, with a number of our administrators and stewards being real-world marshals for motorsports and events, and even some of us race drivers on the circuit. So there's plenty to find out about Next Gen Racing, and we'd love to have you part of our website, or indeed join us as part of our Facebook community. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is now time for the mid-season break, and when we do return in 2 weeks' time, we'll be returning on Friday the 12th of May in Germany at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, but we'll bring you all the racing action as if it were live in a post-round broadcast the day after on Saturday the 13th of May. We're going to be going from the Fast and Furious circuit of Lime Rock Park to a circuit that's highly technical in nature, and as our drivers do return, who'll be able to resume the championship campaign on the ultimate high of bringing home wins in Germany. We'll find out all that and more in 2 weeks, but until then, we have been Next Gen Racing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.